people will recall things differently, right? So it would be hard to argue with facts, but perception of reality is always kind of twisted, right? So the way that even we are perceiving this conversation now, there's the things that I'm reading from you, the things that I'm imagining that you're thinking when you're trying to tell them to me, right? And then there's the things that you're thinking that you're telling me, and then imagine what I'm receiving on my end. So all those things can get lost in translation, but we're assuming that we're understanding each other the whole time.
You are now tuning in to the Relentless Project. Real people, real stories, real life.
It's like, dude, any opportunity. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers, mate.
Boop.
We didn't even touch. That's bad luck.
There it is.
So, for those of you at home, we're just going to shotgun this one because normally I get talking points. I'm like, all right, we're going to guide the conversation. We never stick to them because we go about everything. So, I'm sure you've seen the face. I'm sure you've heard the name, Bernardo. This is your third episode. First one in the studio, though, so it's the one that counts. But he calls me, what was it?
Thursday, probably? That sounds about right. Maybe Wednesday?
I want to say it was like Friday. It was like...
Yes.
You're like, I'm coming to Pittsburgh this week. Can we do a seminar? Let's do a podcast. I'm like...
You're right. It was Friday.
Bro, it's 2 days.
Yeah.
But we're here, and we're doing it. So... GST, that's what you're doing here.
Yeah, for sure.
And how's the class size? Is it big?
Good. 30 people. It's a smaller GST, but it's a level 2, right? So level 2s are harder to host to begin with. There's the percentage of the population that can do it to begin with is already smaller. So
not to throw you on the spot, I have a question. So there was a rumor that if a certain department had was a host for GST, no other closer department could bring them in. Is that true, or is that something we made up here?
No, that's not necessarily true, right? We'll favor if a host has been a host for a very long time. We'll make it obviously easier for the person that's already been hosting successfully, right? At the same time, if another host comes along and they're like, look, we can get 150 people in there, you're like, cool, right? Business is business. You just got to do what you got to do.
So there's no territory.
No, no. Ideally, no. But the theme that we're working on right now, actually, with GSTs, is we're trying to make it where it's not necessarily a co-host situation, but where adjacent agencies would be able to then feed into the host, and they would get also a little bit of a discount. You know how every 10 slots you get one comped? If other agencies were to help to that extent, where they would also get comp slots potentially.
Oh, that's actually genius because you're not really losing anything.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Hey, man, dude, you've been busy, bro. It's crazy because we'll catch up. I like to consider you a friend. Can I call you a friend?
Of course, we have absolutely, bro. We've been through the ringer, bro. We're friends. We're homies. Yeah.
But that we pick up the phone or something, and it's back to where we left off.
Oh yeah,
bro. Every time I talk to you, there's something it's not like, hey, the last time we were talking about this. Yeah, I've kind of built this up. It's like, yeah, I did that. It's going good. It's going great. Now I'm doing this completely different. I'm like, those two don't even go together. How are you? Oh, no, but they do. I think we were on the phone for an hour and a half. I was taking my socks off to get in bed, and we're on the phone. And, dude, my sock was half on, half off for the hour and a half because we were just in that conversation. Yeah. I'm like, bro, dude. And it's like, how's that going? So I have to say something.
Yeah.
I used the app for 2 days, and then that's it.
No. I get it. Yeah, I totally get it. Especially so... A couple of things, right? So I think since we last spoke, at the time I still hadn't bought the gym, right? So November I bought the gym, and we bought it with roughly 190 members, right? And now we're at 340. So we're able to grow it in 5 months, 6 months to a ridiculous number. Thank you. Yeah.
So what's the gym name?
It's called Gracie Jiu-Jitsu VB.
Gracie for Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was wondering what VB meant.
Yeah. No.
Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
That's cool. How's the location? I haven't seen it, so I'm gonna go off of
your... No, the place is stunning, right? It looks like a spa. We effectively cater for higher ticket clients, and we're really trying to make it to where it feels very welcoming. Kids feel, families feel good entering the gym, right? And it's one of those that if you try to race for the bottom, you're gonna end up in a tough space. And I see a lot of guys, yeah, for sure. I see a lot of gyms that they go in with good intention and they end up not charging enough. They barely break even. They have 1 or 2 bad months. They end up falling off, right? So
yeah, I mean it is a business, and if you want to provide a service, a high quality service, something has to fund it.
Yeah, for sure.
There's the argument of like, how much do you charge? It's like, well, what are you trying to offer? Some gyms offer, like at my gym specifically, like they have a fight team, they have Muay Thai, Jiu Jitsu, and then they have like a sauna, a gym. Like they offer so many different things, and it's like you can't get it for $100 a month.
Nope,
not here.
Nope.
So I get it, and like and it goes to show you, like if you really want it,
oh, absolutely,
people are going to pay that, and if you're paying that, you have people who are buying in and doing this process and not. Oh, I'm gonna pay now and then quit later, and pay and then quit. It's like,
yeah, for sure.
Well, congratulations on
thank
that.
you.
How did you go about? Because you're not really like by trade a marketing guy.
No, not at all.
So how did you go about doing that? Like getting the gym members up. Like was it a marketing strategy? Did you hire someone? Like I kind of know a little bit of what you're talking about, so we'll try to keep your sauce special. But
no, it's okay.
Generally speaking, like what was your method of trying to get more members?
Yeah, there was a couple of things that happened, right? One of them was I started getting one. I always studied, right? So I always studied business. I always understood business. Both my parents are business owners, so it was kind of inevitable. The entrepreneur blood is in there, so it was just a function of time before it happened. And I was just waiting for my green card in order for me to like have some sense of permanence before I bought the gym.
I had so many jokes that just came into my head.
Oh,
you're too damn big and good jiu-jitsu for you to be making those.
Yeah,
but
no, for sure. And then the thing was, we started close early on. We started working with Gym Lunch, right? And then Gym Lunch, and then Alex Formosi, right? I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. If you never heard of him, you should look him up. He's incredible at marketing. He's very intelligent. He's very well spoken. He also has very good conceptual frameworks around business, and I always appreciated that. So I studied him a lot. I was able to then, secure.
That was like you on your own studying, or you like taking his class?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. Paid a lot for his mentorship, for the mentorship, and I also was paying for a service to help me get there, right? And then past that, then I was like, okay, now we have the tools to get to where we can provide a different level of service and we can onboard people in a different way, right? And that was exactly what we were going after. So I learned how to run ads. I taught that myself. I taught myself how to code. I taught myself how to build a software. And then now we white label everything. And then now I taught myself how to do the AI text messaging and voice messaging to where I can upload. For example, let's say I want to do a Relentless Project, CRM, customer relationship management. I could upload all your text messages. I could upload your voice, and I can create an AI agent that would call people for you. And it would have
me.
Yeah, that would be you. It would have your voice, your tone. It would have your
what
jokes.
Up, baby?
Yeah, you have all the things. You have to be very careful what you put on it.
Dude, this makes me now. I hate social media. I hate it.
Yeah.
Like I get it. We have to do it for
sure.
We have a like me. I really like this podcast because I get to meet cool people like you. Sure. People get to tell their stories. I had Dr. Rick on who trains at my gym. Had no idea. Trains at my gym, working on an artificial pancreas.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, that's really cool.
Like he's developing an artificial pancreas.
That's amazing.
I would have never met this dude in my life.
Nope.
Yeah.
So
like, and you have social media, networking, all that stuff, and then bada bing, bada boom. I got a doctor sitting across from me, and I'm like, hold on. Okay, I got a question for you because I asked this question.
Yeah.
Do you know what a pancreas is?
Yeah.
It's a shape, right?
Yeah.
So if someone's making an artificial pancreas, how would you envision that in your mind?
I would initially I would start with function, right? So I'll start with the fact that it produces insulin, and that's its most important function. So I would.
Why are you so smart, dude? Fucking.
I mean, that's just how I would go about it. Yeah.
I would start with function because that's the smart thing to do. Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah.
So I would have a blood reader. I would tie it to a blood glucose monitor, and then the moment that your glucose starts to spike, I would have it increase the dosage or decrease the dosage based on the reading level. You can have a very easy feedback loop from the glucose monitor
Dude,
to the pancreas.
You know a lot. Are you a biologist?
Actually, I do have a degree in exercise science, but I have a really, really big background in biology. Is that what he said that he would do?
Well, so I'm thinking the whole time he's talking about, I'm like, man, you have to like, he's like, because his specialty is tissue, like creating tissue.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, skin's very easy to make.
Yeah.
Not for me. So I'm listening to him and I'm entertaining him. I'm like, oh, yeah. He's like, single layer. I'm like, yeah, duh. Like, single layer. Absolutely.
It's a single bilipid layer. So it's relatively simple to make it happen.
He's describing that. And then, so he said that the pancreas, the individual cell, the pancreas acts as the cell just on a bigger level. Like a lot of cells doing the same function over and over at a higher level. Usually that's how glands work usually, which I had no idea. But so in theory, he's researching and trying to develop essentially what it would look like if, God willing, everything goes through. It would be injections you get throughout your body. So it's not a centralized location.
Oh, that's super interesting. Okay.
Dude, I'm like...
Yeah, that's really cool.
So then I asked him the question. I was like, well, in it being decentralized, would it be more...
effective.
Like, more effective.
Yeah, potentially.
And then can you believe this, dude? Actually, I gave him a metaphor. I was like, because if you have troops, if you have one big castle, you need to bring out 1,000 troops to get all these guys.
Yeah.
But if you have 50 castles, you can bring out maybe 100 troops from each castle.
For sure.
He was like, dude, I never thought of it that way. I said, dude, look at that. But I don't know how I got into that. But yeah, so he starts going on meeting people. Meeting cool people, social media.
For sure.
Social media. See, boom, boom, I went back.
No, that's the big thing with jiu-jitsu, right? Jiu-jitsu will give you this opportunity to meet unbelievable people. I would argue that if you're a jiu-jitsu instructor and you own a school, the greatest thing you can do is make amazing connections in the gym. Nowhere else you'll find that many people.
All kinds of people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All kinds of life. Like the guy that fixes my cars from jiu-jitsu, my accountant, my lawyer, my real estate agent, the closer for the house.
All jiu-jitsu.
Right. All jiu-jitsu people, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so cool because you all have this, you're doing the same thing, right? You're learning jiu-jitsu. You're doing it for a different reason. And it's all kind of different people doing it. You have the person who goes in there and like, oh, I watch UFC, this is cool. And that's fun for them.
Great.
And then you have the person who went through a traumatic event and they're like, I will never let that happen to me again. So they're going to the gym with like a mission.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you have the kid who's like, I want to be jiu-jitsu king of the world. So he's in there just grappling every day.
Yeah.
So it's like you have someone who wants to be an MMA fighter.
For sure.
So now they're training jiu-jitsu to get good on the ground. So like, there's so many different reasons that people are doing it, but everyone's doing the same thing. They're learning jiu-jitsu and from different backgrounds.
Yeah, I would argue the vast majority of people have had some event if they're training jiu-jitsu for a long time. I don't know anybody that has been training more than like 2 or 3 years that had not had something happen at some point in their life.
Well, shit's happening all over now.
Right? So it's one of those that you can almost like, you can pretty kind of securely predict that if somebody's pursuing MMA very heavily, they've been bullied pretty heavily when they were young. Or they had a parent figure or somebody in their life that was very, very harsh to them.
I was going to say a name, but he's been known to call people out and bring them to his gym. Strictly.
Yeah. No, we're not going to do that one.
I believe you.
Yeah, I believe you too, homie. Yeah, that's what guns are for.
Dude, so I just saw he sat in with, I think, Mitch Aguirre.
Oh, yeah.
He like brought him to the gym and stuff.
Mitch is in Virginia Beach.
So, fun fact, remember Seminar Stack we were talking about? Mitch is going to be there.
Oh, that's sick. Yeah, he's a great guy. I've only heard good things about him. He's always been, cool to all the people that went to his open mat and went to his gym and everything.
I've heard good things about him. I think that's what got me into jiu-jitsu.
Exactly. Yeah. So everybody that I talked to, always been like, hey, he's super cool. Always, he just wants to train, have fun, and that on that mission, we are all together, right? So,
yeah, and like you're doing it while making money. Like you can't be mad at that. No. Like that's a good time. That's what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so Seminar Stack is going to be there August 2nd.
Yeah.
Granville, PA. If you're free.
Nice.
Seminar Stack. Yeah. Eric and Kate told me to plug that in.
For sure. Please do. No. We're trying right now. The schedule is out of control. So
I'm just saying, we have a couple booths, maybe a little show and tell.
Gotcha.
I think maybe a cash prize, a flashlight with a no, I'm kidding. But, no, that event's cool, man, because it's turned into something that when I first like reached out to them, I was like, oh, cool, like a self-defense seminar. We go to a million of those. But it's so much more than that. There's
For sure.
different companies going in, right? So like me as an instructor, I went to GST, I went to EFC, I go to all of them, and I'm like, which one kind of fits with where I see the department going and where I trust, right? So we pull things from everything, and then we pick the one that, you know, GST, boom, you do that every 2 years. So you get all these companies there. So like someone like who's never, or maybe they're new as an instructor or want to get into this, you can get kind of like a feel for all these different instructors and organizations. It's a jiu-jitsu tournament all day. It's an expo. So now you have different companies from fitness, you know, LEO equipment, military, whatever it is, it's apparel. You know, some of the organizations also got a table. So now they're selling their products and services. There's like blind yoga, which I learned about.
Blind yoga.
Bro.
Interesting. Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm not knocking it because yoga's hard.
No, it'll be harder because you don't have the sense of, you don't have your
balance.
sight. You can only balance from your ears, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be really tough.
But like it encompasses the whole like health and wellness that it takes to be law enforcement officer, but also it's open to civilians. So like anyone who's looking to kind of self-defense and stuff like that.
For sure.
So it's cool. There's a lot of cool people going. I just had Rob with McDojo.
Oh,
Rob,
yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's fun.
He's going to be there giving a social media class.
Really? Oh, interesting. That would be cool. Yeah.
I didn't even know he did that, but I mean, his social media
for sure,
works,
right? It would be,
obviously.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely does. Yeah.
But
yeah, it's such a niche thing, right? So he's a proof of concept that you should. There's a saying in Brazil. It roughly translates to, you know, you got one ass, you can't sit in two horses. He picked one niche and he just ran with it really well, right? So how many people are showing videos of martial arts just being absolutely ridiculous and just making fun of it and like being like, hey, check this out, these people did this thing, this is crazy.
And it's like it's stuff we all do, right? Like we see some stuff like that and we're like, dude, what
is happening? Yeah.
But like but he does that at such a different level, right? Because now he's like exposing like bad people who are in here.
For sure. Yeah.
He's, you know, they have academy saved, so like they're going to gyms and like letting like someone like us who don't own a gym, like, hey, these gyms have cameras. This is the process they've gone through. They background check. So it gives the consumer like something extra to look for at gyms. So he's really gone down the rabbit hole in that niche.
That's something that I got very lucky that we have a women empowered. One of our women empowered students, she's a child protection expert. That's all she does. And she writes policies and she works with like YMCA and places like that to make their locker room safer, to make it to where there's less likely of any event like that happen. And she just helped revamp the child protection policy with some new things. And it was very interesting because you don't think about it, right? I grew up swimming and I grew up like, you know, like you go to like, right? So I've been swimming since I was 3. So to me, like being in a locker room and changing in front of somebody is very kind of like normal.
Not a big deal.
Not that big a deal, right? But at the same time, it's always uncomfortable to like, if you're going to change, right? Obviously, we're not going to get like naked in front of a child, but if you're changing and there's a kid there, it's super weird. There's always that like, oh, like usually what you do, you wait until they leave and then you finally like, oh, okay, got it. Now I can change real quick, right? So we made it to where there's no more overlap between kids classes and adult classes where the potential for the locker room for them to be in the same space, which is very interesting to work that out, right? Especially if you have our kids classes are huge. We have over 150 kids there. So can you imagine like the logistics to be able to make it to where the adults can change so they're in class on time, but the kids can't be there? Yeah. So we made it like, it was really, really cool the way that she orchestrated the setup. And I was like, oh, that's really dope. That's really smart. Right. So, and then we revamped the whole policy. We always did background checks. We always did some degree of training. Like if a child tells you something, how you're supposed to go about it. You're not supposed to probe them, right? You just receive the information and then you immediately report it, right? That's how it's supposed to work. But she's taking it to a whole nother level. Every staff member, every volunteer that signs up to like, because people like, there'll be a parent that's a blue belt or a parent that's a purple belt. It's like, look, I want to help with classes. Is it okay? Like, right, my kid's in that class. Can I go help? And it used to be like, yeah, of course, bro, just go help, right? But the reality is, you have no idea.
And that's crazy because how often is that overlooked, right? You've trained with this person for 2 years.
Totally. You have no idea.
But if you think about it, that's what, 3 hours a week? if you go 2-3 days a week. You know this person for 2-3 hours a week for 2 years. Like, how well do you know this person?
For
he's
sure.
Cool. He's fun.
100%.
So like, it's easy to go, oh nah, dude, he's cool. Dude.
I know that guy. He's cool. Yeah.
But it's something. Yeah, something. You know that. I mean, if you're gonna be doing some fucked up shit, you're not gonna be announcing it.
Yeah, of course, right? Like, yeah, for
So,
sure. Yeah.
Who knows the skeletons in the closet? They say.
Yeah, 100%. So then we started
know you
like,
guys did all that.
much heavier background check. We started doing like, criminal history. We started, obviously, right? Like if you're on a sex offender registry, you're not stepping foot in my gym, right? So the moment that I find out, you're like, goodbye.
Just
right?
walk away.
You'd be like, hey, bro, this is not the place. You signed a waiver too. This is not going to go your way. So like, yeah.
So wait, did you sign? Oh, you did? Okay, let's have the
Yeah,
conversation.
great. Now, now we're going to go, like, private room. And then, but it is like, even educational background, calling previous employees, all those things, right? It always just increasing the chances of if somebody is that way, we'll catch them, right? Like the school that I bought used to be called Lynx Academy. It's been around since '96. They never had anything happen. So, and at the same time, there are very few things in a gym that are catastrophic, and you want to hedge very, very heavy against those, right? We don't allow, for example, for instructors to try to date students. We don't allow for even students talking about anything that's remotely sexual on the mat. That is absolutely unacceptable. Like that green floor is not your Tinder. You're like, get out of here.
Do you have the green floor too?
I do have the green floor.
Is that like, so is that a
It's
thing?
a Gracie thing. It's a standard kind of Gracie thing.
No, and that's cool because when you walk in there, you like...
You have the familiarity already.
Yeah, oh, I've been to this one in this place. I've been so you expect a similar like structure.
Sure. Yeah. The other thing that the only thing that we have different there is our walls are this kind of tan color. So we use like a tan color for the walls, and the floor is green. It's better for contrast. And our front desk is
fucking
sick.
Interior designer.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah, add that on to the list. Yeah, we just built this new kind of like a pro shop, but he has like a samurai, like full samurai suit in the middle, and then his gis on one side, no gi on the other, and then it's really cool. So,
yeah. And what do you fall into? Gi or no gi?
I'm doing these days mostly no gi for sure. Yeah, I love the gi. I like the gi. I find it very interesting how the gi has this quality that it exacerbates the difference between belts, right? So if you have like really strong purple belt, going with a black belt that's a little bit smaller, on no gi, you're gonna see very, very little kind of difference there, right? Like there's gonna be a very competitive match. You put him on the gi, that guy can slow him down like crazy. Those grips,
dude,
homie,
I'm telling you, it's. People ask me, I prefer no gi, but
Same, yeah.
I am out of shape now because I took a year off because of my knee. So I prefer gi.
There you go.
I can just hold you down, get my breath, and then find some chokes with your lapel. We'll figure it out. Like,
100%.
Can't do that with no gi.
No.
So it's like a cheat for me, and
No,
I acknowledge that, right?
Well,
like,
I mean, it's for both. Like the reality is, it's cheat, and at the same time, like if they don't know how to manage that, that's on them, right? That's not on you. That's the reality, right? You're making them better too by having somebody that locks you down.
You're
right?
choking them. I'm making you better.
You're getting better right now. So, the no-gi thing is interesting, right? Because you have a higher mobility rate. You also have I found that the translation from that to street is much higher, right? So when you're fighting on the street, you don't have the lapel. You don't have most things will rip when you grab them anyways on a street fight. So ideally, you'll be very, very, very proficient at wrestling and taking them down and keeping them pinned, right? Keeping their shoulders on the ground and keeping them held until they get tired. And then you can, either strike, get away, or submit them, right? So
what's your class structures look like? Do you do like the self-defense, self-defense, women empowerment? You offer all the same stuff as well?
Yeah.
Dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
How does that scheduling work?
The scheduling is insane. Yes. So we have kids from 5 to 8 Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 8 to 13 Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then we have a black belt club. If they're really good, well behaved, then it's basically master cycle for kids. But up until then, it's mostly like, how do you talk to a bully? How do you tell your parents if somebody's picking on you? How do you actually defend yourself, right? How do you tell your teacher? How do you talk to your friends? How do you know if they're bullying you or if they are just, playing around? And can you tell the difference? What's the litmus test there, right? So I know it's kind of
Dude, that's something I haven't seen anywhere here.
yeah. So for example, right, like an easy way to know is like, right, if I ask you to stop, you would stop, right? And that's your friend, not a bully. But if you ask a bully to stop, they likely won't. So that's how you know. So if they're messing around, it's so easy, right? When you think about it that way. There you go.
I'm sorry, guys at work.
No, it's all good, bro. That's
Like,
a
can you
different
chill?
thing.
And I'm like, no.
Yeah. They're like, absolutely not. Option unavailable.
Option not available. Sorry.
So, yeah, try again on Tuesday. But, it is one of those things where it's such an undervalued skill, right? And at the same time, nobody teaches you how to do that. Nobody teaches you how to tell your parents that somebody's picking on you, right? That's a hard conversation potentially for a lot of kids. And you also don't know how your parents going to respond either, right? I've seen all kinds of responses from parents where they're like, oh, if they punch you, you better punch them back, right? Don't come home until you do something back. Or it'll be like, oh my God, what's happening, right? They freak out and they go to the principal and they make this whole like kind of thing out of it. So there's like, the range there is insane. So how to manage that? How they going to deal with their emotions when they're telling that to their
Do you have
parents?
classes for adults to manage their emotions too? Because I know a lot of adults who
That could use a little.
Yeah.
That could use a little management. Oh,
so you would think
100%.
jiu-jitsu would help you out there, but it doesn't.
You'd be surprised. I can make the case that when I'm doing private lessons, that an easy 20% of that is just straight psychology at that time. Yeah. So straight up, it's basically I'm just their therapist at that moment. They come in. It's like a lot of often trauma dump and whatnot. And the good thing is that I have a lot of students that own psychiatric practices and psychology clinics, which allows me then to have access to someone that would then teach me not only how to be more effective with them, but it'll also teach me how to manage the emotions when they are dumping that much on you, right? Those guys hear it's how often do you go to the psychologist to be like, hey man, I'm just having a great time this week.
Yeah, never.
And he just smiles. Never,
You're
right?
there at your breaking point,
Yeah,
essentially. You're
exactly.
Like, I don't know what to do. That's why I need you.
Yeah, and that's also this again personal opinion. You see it as whatever you do, whatever you want to do with your life. But I think it's very interesting how it's like going to the cardiologist when you're having a heart attack. That's not a good idea, right? You want to probably go a little bit early, find out some of the things that trigger you, some of the things that get you, like, a little more emotional here, a little more emotional there, figure those out. So you have the tools. Not only you have the tools to when you're managing poorly, but also you have the tools when things are going well. What are those patterns, right? What are the things that get you, like, excited?
So you can repeat it.
For sure. So you can get in that group, right? So
that's a good way to look at it, because we overlook that as like, if you're looking at a therapist or a psychiatrist, it's because
something is going
on.
Yeah.
It's rather than, hey, you go to the doctor every 6 months or every year, kind of like to be analyzed, make sure everything's good. Why not do that for the probably most important organ of your body?
Yeah, for sure.
Your brain.
Yeah. It is the, very few organs when things are not going well, right, will allow you to then, basically end your life that fast, right? So, if your heart if you're not taking care of your heart, you'll last like 30, 40, 50 years, right? If you're not taking care of your, of your pancreas, if you're not taking care of your liver, right? How many people go well into their 40s and 50s as a full-blown alcoholic and they make it, right? Your kidneys with drug abuse or anything like, or any kind of substance abuse, people last a really, really long time before they crack. But your brain, less so, right? Like, still the number one cause of death between 18 and 35 is suicide. So that is telling, right? That is the thing that's killing people sooner. So why are we not studying that and really paying a lot of attention to how you feel in that moment? So I think it's something that's really, really important, overlooked. And I got lucky that I started going to therapy when I was very, very young. So
that's something you kind of include in your repertoire.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. If you don't have those tools, yeah, like
that's why you're always smiling and happy.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean,
it's like I've never seen you too angry.
Yeah, it's to get me angry is it's extremely difficult. I don't know how to say.
Oh, same. And people I think people like knock me for it. Like, why aren't you mad?
Why?
I don't know, dude. Like, I had a lot of shit happen to me when I was a kid. This is easy to manage right now. Sure. I'm good with this. Like, he wants to fight me. So what? Like, we can do it or not. It's up to him. Like, or they're saying all this about you. Cool. Wow, man, it sucks.
Yeah,
it sucks for them. Like, they're talking about me, and I'm over here eating cereal in my underwear. Like, very threatening.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So,
but is that something that you're like that you intentionally provide for your gym, like making sure to bridge
100%.
that gap of like training,
100%,
and mental health awareness, or
100%. Yeah. If you, couple things, right? Like if you go on the kids route, it would be if you, I hear parents say this, how can you stand up? Like my kid won't stand up for themselves, right? If you don't have the tools to back up, if something were to happen, you will never stand up for yourself to begin with, right? Because you're afraid of retaliation.
what are you standing up on?
Exactly, right? So, and if if your castle is shaky, right, you can tell them to stop, but now they push you and then you don't know what to do, or they punch you and you don't know what to do, right? So you're counting on, like, I don't want to say fake confidence, but it kind of is, right? So you're counting on
False
a shaky,
confidence.
yeah,
That's
it's
exactly
just false, yeah. So confidence to me is confidence is built on having a stack of evidence that you are who you say you are. That's it. So, and confidence comes from competence, right? So if you do something like, 100 times, 200 times, and it happened the exact same way for the 100th time, why would the 101 be that different, right? You just have a lot of empirical evidence that you are who you say you are. That's it. So when I say like, oh, I train a lot, I can do jiu-jitsu, I can fight a lot of people, that's true because I've fought a lot of people, I have a lot of training, and why would that person be that different, right? So
yeah, you're approaching situations in a different manner because you have this backing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Rather than you have no clue what's going to happen,
Yeah.
so you're sitting there, and then you always see the people who train a lot. They're always the quiet ones.
Yeah, of
and
course.
The chill
Yeah.
ones, and the ones that are like, oh, you're gonna beat me up, okay, man.
Yeah,
Like, don't beat me up.
Yeah.
Like, don't beat me up. You know, and like the ones who don't train are the ones like yelling and barking,
for sure.
and
Yeah.
like they can't manage those emotions. And I was that kid. That's like I can speak on it. Like when I had no training, I had the most to say.
Oh yeah.
And then now that I've trained a lot and fought a lot of people and gotten beat up a lot,
Yeah.
I'm like, is talking shit worth it? Maybe if it's funny, but like, I ain't gonna go out and actively fight someone now.
For sure.
Hurt my hands, hurt their face,
Oh,
I go to
yeah.
jail, lose my
It's
job.
not worth it. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but sometimes the people who don't train don't understand. Where do you think?
I'll
see a lot
tell
of
you,
people.
even on that, right?
Oh, tell me.
The good one is the way that I think about it is trained dogs don't bark. That's it. If they're barking a lot, what are they doing? They're just afraid, right? They're trying to prevent confrontation. That's why they are barking. That's why they're posturing. They're trying to make it to where you're intimidated by their voice and by their attitude,
So that
not by their
confrontation
actual
doesn't
skill set.
happen.
Yeah. Have you seen those Malamuts when they just roll up on another dog and the other dog just like gets quiet and moves away? Why?
I saw literally. It's so funny. I just saw a video where two dogs are like going at it, and another dog's like laying down, gets up, walks over, and they both like
Just whoop. Yeah. Why? Because he knows, right? He's probably been in 100 fights, and then it's
they're like, this
Had it.
motherfucker about to beat us up.
Yeah.
We gotta-
Oh yeah.
we
Yeah.
gotta stop.
Trained dogs don't bark.
But that's
yeah.
that's also a t-shirt. Man, I got 2 t-shirt ideas.
Yeah.
Where do you see the gym going? Like, what's your vision for the gym? Because you're doing. I mean, it's not like you just have the gym, right?
No. Yeah.
Like you're involved in a very big organization that's spearheaded,
Yeah.
and continuously
sure.
spearheading the
Yeah.
sport and creating a lot of awareness. Like, where do you see the gym being in 5 years compared to like what you want?
Yeah, I think the gym will be the gyms, right? In 5 years, not just one gym. I want to cap that gym, right? Because there'll be a moment in time where you can no longer take that many new people, right? So provided that we're capped on space, we're going to continue to obviously, right? There's churn, so people leave, and then you need to constantly be reintroducing new people. But at the same time, we'll likely be like, okay, let's expand locations. Let's bring in. I always want to make sure that the people that are working for me are taken care of, right? So I pay them very well. I do commissions on just about everything. And I want incentives to align, right? So my goal for the gym at this point, like, right, I'm doing well, and I don't necessarily need the money from the gym, nor do I use that. I use it that much. I reinvest everything back in the gym. But what I see is more full-time instructors, right? So I want the people that are working for me to feel like they're in an environment where they can really thrive. They can make a lot of money. They can take care of their families, and they can,
That's like the coolest part of
Yeah.
like owning a business.
for sure. I
Like,
agree.
I would love to be able to just hire my friends.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that's the goal. You know, retire your family, hire your friends.
100%.
you know?
100%. Yeah.
And like, man, maybe one day. That's
Yeah.
where this gets. But that's a good goal to have. And
Yeah.
where do you see yourself? Hopefully, you don't say quitting, because then I probably
No. That's
I just fucked it.
No.
Hender's gonna be messaging me like, "Why the fuck did you make him quit?"
no. it would have to be an extreme event for me to quit, right? Something that would actually
Jackpot.
right? Like, yeah. It would, no, actually, funny enough, if I won the lottery, I would definitely continue doing jiu-jitsu. I don't think my life would change that much. But the total maybe amount of work that I do might change, but the people that I hang out with, the amount of time that I spend with jiu-jitsu will likely not change. And the reason for that is because if two thoughts around that. One is, if you never experience retirement, you actually have no idea what you want to do. These people have this idea that's like, oh, I want to stop working. Then I'm just going to go to, like, Costa Rica and drink margaritas on the beach, right? Have you tried going to Costa Rica and drinking margaritas on the beach for like 3 weeks? Week 1 is great. Week 2, you're like, all right, I'm kind of tired of the sun. And then week 3, you're like, get me out of here.
That's how I am in Mexico. Like,
See what I'm saying?
like, dude, we're drinking, we're partying. That third day, I'm like, let's go in the city and see like what's going on in there. Like, see if we can go hiking or something. Like,
for sure.
Like, it's bad.
Oh yeah.
When I turn down tequila to go hiking, it's he's bored.
100%. Yeah. So it's people have this fantasized idea about retirement. Like, oh, I'm gonna get a fishing boat and whatever, right? People come up with all kinds of things, and I don't fault you if that's what you want to do with your life. Nor do I fault you if you want to, go have margaritas on the beach for the rest of your life. Have at it. If that's what you really want, right? But
false confidence, right here, buddy. Easy.
Yeah. But my suggestion would be try to do that for a week or two and see how that goes, right? So you can attempt a mini retirement and see how that feels. And then the other thing is that the assumption that you now know what old you would then want. How do you know?
Yeah, because that changed.
You actually have no idea. That would change.
5 years ago, it's completely different than me right now.
100%. Yeah.
And when I'm 80,
who knows?
and looking ripped at 80.
That's right. That's the plan. Yeah. That's what yeah. That's what 30-year-old ish wants for 80-year-old ish, right? But the reality is, you don't know what 80-year-old ish.
Dude, I don't even
wants.
see myself getting. Is it crazy to say that? No. I don't see myself getting old.
No, that's not at all. Yeah.
Like I still walk around like I'm 20.
Hey, bro. I told my birthday was the other week, right? And I was like, hey, I'm on my
birthday.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, I said happy birthday.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
You good. Yeah, you good. Yeah. I was just joking. I was like, yeah, it's my 7th anniversary of being 25, right? So I it just keeps increasing. But like, you don't have to.
So you're 32.
I'm 32.
We're the same fucking age. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. I now hate myself. So I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy.
Yeah. Again, like, yeah.
It's like, yeah.
I don't know what to think.
You should.
No, it's just like people say, like, even on that, like, right on the function of comparison, right? You can say things objectively without judging, right? So comparison is not the thief of joy. Judgment is. So anytime I can say objectively, right? Like, you have more money than me, or Gordon Ryan is better at jiu-jitsu than me, or Henner is better at business than me, or better at, running a company than I am. And if you don't say the thing that would likely follow intuitively, which is, therefore I suck at jiu-jitsu, therefore I suck at my business, therefore I'm poor, you then remove that and you can just compare without judging. And so it's, right? It's really funny how we associate the thing that follows with
the
it
opposite.
being So the reality is, you can compare as much as you want, but as long as you don't judge, then you're going to just objectively say something that's factually true, and there's nothing about it.
And it kind of like shapes it wires your brain differently. Because how many times do we, I was joking, I don't hate myself. But,
No, yeah.
how many times do we actually say stuff like that, though? Like, you lose a match or you get submitted, you're like, man, why do I suck at jiu-jitsu? And you tell yourself that every day.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it or not, you're telling yourself
for sure. Yeah.
You're eventually going to start believing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, the human mind is so, like, you ever hear the mind-muscle connection?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's
They tell
huge.
you if you're intentionally thinking about your muscles growing and the movements, and you're looking in the mirror, there's a study that shows those people gain more muscle mass.
100%.
Because of just your brain.
Yeah, 100%.
The messaging you're putting in.
Oh, yeah. Even on that front, right? So two things there. One is very interesting. One is you can say comparison without judgment if you know your worth is not founded on the things that you do. It's inherent.
Care to elaborate?
Yeah. So, for example, when you're born, right, is that child worthy of love?
Absolutely.
Right? So what does it do?
It cries, it's cute, it smiles, it
does nothing,
Yeah,
right?
it's
It
just
absolutely
there.
does nothing, right? It does nothing to gain or lose worth. Somehow it has inherent worth. And somehow we lose touch with that part in us. Why are we different than that?
Dude, I was listening to a pastor speak, and he had a $20 bill. and I'm sure this metaphor has been used.
Yeah.
This is where I saw it. And he was like, "Who wants $20?" Obviously, everyone's raising their hand, and he like crumbles it up, throws it down. "Who wants $20?" Everyone's like, "Me." Great. Still, he stomps on it. "You still want it?"
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Yeah." You know, and the whole messaging was like, no matter what's been done to that $20 bill, it's still a $20 bill.
100%.
You know, and we as people are the same way. We do things, we don't do things, but like at the end of the day, we are people. We were put here individually.
Sure.
You know, we all came out of, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. But like, as corny as this may sound, we all have greatness within us.
Yeah, of course.
Are
for
you
sure.
willing to tap in and showcase that?
For sure.
You know, and I feel a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's some people who overlook that and get lost in the sauce. That's what I call it.
Oh, 100%.
And like, forget that. But like, everyone has a story. That's why I will sit down with, I've said it all the time. I will sit down with anybody. As long as you have good intention, right?
Yeah,
like if
for
you want
sure.
to come in here and just start talking shit about people, like no one's
get out of
gaining
here.
anything from that.
Yeah,
so,
100%. Yeah. What you're talking about is the difference between worth and value, right? So your worth is inherent. You are worthy of love despite of, right? So your value is how much can you contribute to society? And people get caught up on both. So, for example, if you do better on your match, potentially you then be more recognized, you would be more valuable to society, right? So it would be your perception to others, not your perception to you. Your perception to you should be unchanged despite of. That's how you can stay really grounded when something bad happens.
Okay, that's that's a really good point. What advice do you have for people maybe battling between worth and value? Because
sure.
That's something I never even considered.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
My worth comes from the value I put out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
especially as a man, right? We want to
100%.
provide.
100%.
We want to be. You know, we want to have money. We want to have job, businesses.
For sure.
We want to have material things, right? Like we confuse and mix worth, and I have no worth because I provide no value.
Yeah.
So how do you go about like getting someone to change that psyche?
Yeah. So the first exercise I'll do is hold yourself if you're a baby. Hold that person and tell them you're not worth anything because you don't do anything. How does that feel?
It feels ugly to say.
It feels ugly, right? It hurts. Like you actually feel it, and like it's like, oh, it aches you, right? And then all you gotta do is remember that you are that. You are that child, and now you're telling yourself exactly those words. If I do nothing, I'm not worth it. It's very easy to say. When you're like sitting on the couch, I'm like, man, I'm being super lazy. I'm not doing anything. And then you're like, immediately the next thought is like, I'm like, what a piece of shit or something like that, right? Like you let things like that slip, right? But then you hold, like when you have that visual, you're like, tell that baby.
I'm just saying, if y'all see me walking around like this, that's
exactly what I'm going through. Yeah, for sure.
That's the exercise I'm doing.
Yeah, so like, right, like you have inherent worthiness of love, and then value is your ability to provide to society, right? So, and I'm not saying that if you're a more valued person or less valued person, you deserve less love or respect, right? You're still worthy of love, which is why people, and when I say love, I mean like, empathic transmission of communication or energy, right? You're worthy of empathy. You're worthy of energy. You're worthy of effort, right? You're worthy of people taking care of you even, right? So, which is same thing that you do with a baby, right? You try to transmit, you try to be empathic, you try to be understanding of what it's going through, right? So if a baby's crying, you're empathetic, right? And then you empathize with it. Oh, he's going through a hard time, right? And you love it regardless. You don't think like, oh, you're not adding anything to your life, like you piece of shit. Why are you like, what are you doing over here? Yeah, bro. Yeah, get out of here, right? So
that's a good way to put it.
So anytime you doubt your worth, I like that exercise because it's very easy for me to, immediately I revert back to that. But as a function of my value, the reason why you're worried about your value is because cognitive biases are often a function of just bad software. That's how I like to think about it in your brain. So slippery slope, right? That's a classic one. People think that if you allow this, then this thing will happen, this thing will happen, and this thing will happen, right? So if you go down the path of you having less value in society, what happens? You're going to get shunned. If you get shunned from your community, you won't have any ways to make ends meet. If you can't make ends meet, you can't eat. If you can't eat, you're going to die, right? So it's very kind of crazy, but that's why you feel so bad when you're not doing anything. It's because you are actually afraid of if you can almost always on a slippery slope go to death, right? That you're no longer going to be around. So, or, oh, what are people going to think of me, right? And if they then go to the next thing, okay, what if they do think about you?
What does that change?
What does that change?
What does that affect?
There you go, right? So, and when you're grounded and like, oh, the reality is like, right? Like, for example, like, right? Remember that bad match I had? I had a bad match at ADCC trials, right?
Bad match? You got put through a table. Man.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's a terrible match, right?
Hurt.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely it hurt, right? And at the same time,
call it a bad match. I was like, it's just quick.
It's just,
You approach someone empathetically and they don't return the same.
Yeah, it wasn't the best.
See you as a baby, Bernardo.
It wasn't the best, yeah. And at the same time, like, right, did my value change? Did my worth change? Like, how many people even remember it, right? Like, not only that. Like,
I honestly forgot about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Most people forgot because most people are true. Like, when you think about that, the next iteration of what are people going to think of me is how often do you think of other people? Literally in a negative way. How much time do you devote to thinking about, can you imagine any of your friends does something, attempts something, fails, and you're like, oh, what a piece of shit. You wouldn't talk to them that way.
Yes, I would.
Yeah, no, right? Like, yeah, it would, like, right?
No, but
remove sarcasm being removed, right? Like
that's a good point.
You would never think of them that way.
As soon as that's over and done with, you're on to the next thing.
You just go on to the next thing, right? You're too worried about your things. You have your life, I have my life, and then we're just thinking about the things that we're doing, right? You don't devote that much time thinking about other people.
And if you do, you're not doing enough.
Oh my God, yeah.
I don't have time to think about.
Yeah, get a hobby, do something.
Dude, bro, I'm so glad I got to sit down with you. Like we're doing this because I've been trying to get it. And then now it's here, man. So like, I don't care what time. Dude, we're here after hours.
100%.
I'm editing 2 other episodes. And I'm like, Bernardo's in town. We're getting them
Let's get it in.
We're getting it in. And honestly, a lot of my life is like that where I plan. And like, I'm so like focused.
Yeah.
But I don't really, it's hard to thrive in that.
For sure.
I need the chaos that I can wheel in and that I can put where I need it, like manipulated chaos.
I would argue that you can, your faith is not that your plan will work. Your faith is in that you know that if something gets thrown at you, you can adapt to it. That's what you should have faith in because you've done that so many times. You likely have more success with things being planned, deviating, and you bring it to something that's useful than you have following that plan to the T.
Yeah, usually, because you know what I'm doing when I'm following a plan to the T?
Yeah.
Thinking about everything that can mess up.
100%.
That's where my focus lies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? And then, so it deviates from the plan.
Yeah.
And let's say it goes 100% smooth.
Yeah.
I just wasted so much energy in all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I try to find the perfect balance of like, well, if any of these happen, there need to be contingencies.
For sure, yeah.
But I do find myself doing very well when shit just hits the fan.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And a couple things, right? Like one that's often, a little bit of a trauma response.
He's writing in his book.
Yeah,
damn it.
And then the other one, welcome to the club. Yeah, thriving with higher levels of cortisol is often a function of having either overbearing parents or you you weren't allowed to speak that often, right? So if your parents got very angry at you and you tuned out, that was usually what happened.
My mom says she didn't do that, so
that's okay. So it never happened.
It never happened.
That's okay. Great.
She never hit me either.
Yeah, never.
Dude, we were having this conversation the other day. I was like telling a story. I'm like, oh, remember when? She's like, that never happened. I'm like, dude, me and my sister started laughing. We're like,
for
what?
Sure. Yeah.
You trauma blocked it out.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
little gaslighting, love it. It's
love
okay.
my mom.
No, for sure. Yeah, right. Like, and even piggybacking off of that, right? People will recall things differently, right? So it would be hard to argue with facts, but perception of reality is always kind of twisted, right? So the way that even we are perceiving this conversation now, there's the things that I'm reading from you, the things that I'm imagining that you're thinking when you're trying to tell them to me, right? And then there's the things that you're thinking that you're telling me, and then imagine what I'm receiving on my end. So all those things can get lost in translation, but we're assuming that we're understanding each other the whole time. But we actually have, right? Like,
Absolutely.
And we like to think that we are, right? We're likely recalling things very similarly. And if we were to go back and try to describe what was talked about, we'll likely have a very similar experience. But I'm willing to bet there will be some deviation, which is very fun.
I was like, dude, Bernardo loves me.
Yeah.
We're best friends.
Bro. Yeah.
He's there like,
Love you, bro.
I gave this dude a fucking charity podcast.
No, get out of here. Yeah. No, but you see how it's very interesting, right? And couples struggle with that a lot. So where one will say like, oh, you don't care about me, or you do too much of this, too much of that, you never do this, you always do that, right? And one, always, never, how often that's true. And then the other one is, right?
We talk like that a lot.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You always
Yeah, it's a
ignore
hyperbole.
me.
It's a figure of speech that ends up getting misinterpreted. And then what's really funny is that the next step after that is not focusing on what was being said, is questioning what was said. Because in all likelihood, they're trying to tell you something. You always do this. The reality is you're not always doing that, but that thing could be fixed.
Yeah.
Or that thing could be worked on. But because they say always, you then shift the focus to, I don't always do that. Now the discussion is whether or not you always do it, not whether or not you do it occasionally.
Yeah, the discussion's not you just did that and it
100%.
affected me negatively.
100%.
Let's get over this.
Yes.
It's trying to justify your position in this.
Yeah. And then you
point.
never actually get to the point, which is so annoying.
Dude, I should probably go to therapy. Because I love these conversations because it makes you like really look in and go, whoa, what am I doing in my life that I can kind of change differently?
Oh, for sure.
You know, like one thing I like to do when my daughter goes away for the summer, I overwork. I skip, and I love working, right? Or so I like to think.
Yeah.
You know, and then someone tells me like, hey, you're doing that because you're running from not having your daughter.
Yeah. And it's that can be true, and that can be, right? Like that can be true, right? I don't know if you actually are or not.
No, but it's cool to
potentially have that
hear that, and you're like, wait, why am I doing this? Like, do I really love money and working and what I do, or am I using that as an excuse to? So you kind of have that conversation with yourself, and I think that's very important. That because the first thing people want to do is, that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah,
you're
for sure. They want to immediately become like,
instead of going, that's an interesting perspective that I've never thought of, and that allows you the ability to think about it.
Yeah.
I think more people need to approach conversations like that.
Couple things on that, right? Like one is somebody else in your position or in a similar space as you are that does not have a daughter that works just as much as you?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Therefore, is it because of your daughter or is it not because of your daughter?
I think we just love money.
You see, it can be, right? That can be an alternative, right? And is there somebody that when the daughter leaves for the summer, they don't work that much? So is it because of the daughter leaving or is it not because of the daughter? You see? So it all depends, right? And the reality is you have no idea. That's the truth.
I'm starting to learn this. We're here on this earth and we're all just figuring it out.
You see what I'm saying? You actually have no idea, right? We construct more, what is it? What's the right word there? You construct more functional stories, and in all likelihood, those stories, you got a positive feedback from telling them versus the alternative. And that would then make it to where it's easier to bear the weight of what you're doing to begin with, right? It could also just like work. And because you have the opportunity to do work, you just do it. Because something else wouldn't give you the level of satisfaction. So per minute satisfaction of we're doing this versus doing something else, you're obviously electing this because you want to do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
When people are like, you need to take a break. No, I love.
What is a break?
This.
No, hold up. What is a break?
Well,
what do you do on a break?
Yeah. A break to me is editing a podcast episode, pushing the next episode, reaching out to the next guest.
For sure.
Like that's me taking a break, because me not taking a break is me at the gym, me training jiu-jitsu, me police, and me showing houses. Anything that requires physical exertion.
Oh, yeah.
That's like me working.
Yeah.
Me using my mind is taking a break. I'm not using my body, I'm using my mind, which is hard for people to understand.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to articulate that.
Yeah.
But like, I'm never tired or exhausted in the sense of like, man, I just need a mental health. I'm tired and exhausted. Like my body needs to rest. And when I get that, boom, rest.
Yeah.
But it's never, I can't handle what's going on. There's sometimes where I'm like, man, I got all this to do. And then I like start licking my chops.
Yeah.
Like, I need to start attacking. Like,
for sure.
And the problem is, what do I attack?
Yes.
But it's not, I have all this.
Yeah.
It's, man, where do I start?
Yes. On that, right? So two things. People that sit in indecision, that's what stress is, right? Stress is, material stress is material getting pulled in opposite directions. Anytime emotional stress is you're getting pulled in two different directions. So often people, for example, they need to do a project, right? And they're dreading the project because they have to do the project, or they want to rest because they're tired. So then you're being pulled in two different directions, but you then don't do either by staying in that state. The moment that you make a decision, you no longer have stress.
Because you're being pulled in one direction.
Yeah, there's only one direction. One direction, there's no stress. There's not opposing directions. You can only sit in stress if you're indecisive. So anytime I experience stress, the question that I ask is, what decision needs to be made? That means I have not made a decision, and I just have to make the decision. And if they're equally important, toss a coin. Doesn't matter. And that's called operationalizing your emotions, right? Anytime you experience, like, for example, anxiety is often, at least for me, it can come from a lack of preparation. That's often what I find that people experience a little bit of anxiety, right? For example, anxiety about, let's say somebody wants to date a lot, right? Or they want to start dating, and they have anxiety around talking to, to another person. And the reason they have anxiety is because they haven't done that a lot. So they then feel uncomfortable about talking to that person. Same as being in a social setting. You're not used to being in a social setting. Therefore, you experience anxiety there, right? You're not used to, then there are obvious things that would be anxiety inducing more from a fear front versus something else. But the reality is, the reason you're experiencing fear from that anxiety is because you probably have not been in that situation that many times. So
job interviews. Why am I you haven't sat in front of this
for sure
person and interview for this company?
Yeah.
You haven't prepared. You haven't, because that is a tournament.
There you go.
Did you skip practice? Did you skip?
For sure. Yeah.
So that makes sense.
All those things will come up. Yeah.
Make it digestible like that. Anxiety is essentially the feeling of under preparation.
Yeah, for sure. So anytime I'm like, okay, I'm experiencing anxiety, where can I prepare more? What did I not do? What do I need to do? Right. So that puts me in a state where I can actually then do something about it. Because sitting in it is definitely not going to help, right? So, for example, people that are anxious about social settings, right? Maybe you should go spend 3 minutes in a social setting, not 3 hours. Don't go to a party. Enter a bar and leave, or enter a restaurant and leave, and just stay there for 3 minutes. Get a coffee. Don't go get a full meal, a 12-course meal, So don't go straight to
baby steps.
Yeah, don't go straight to a 12,000 people concert, right? Maybe you start with a little small thing that's manageable and attainable, and then you start building your confidence, right? Which will come from what? From the stack of evidence that you are who you say you are. But if you keep telling yourself that I just have social anxiety, immediately defaults to you not then having to do anything about it. And the reason people default to that is very funny. So anytime, and this is kind of crazy, your brain is very good at preserving calories. It wants to keep you alive. That's all it wants to do. So this is extremely driven for survival. It's very, very little driven for thriving, which is why so many people struggle. But anytime you're in survival mode, you want to save as many calories as possible. If you then go to say, I have social anxiety, and you don't have to do anything about it, what did your brain just do? It made it to where it's like, oh, I can spend 0 calories and be in the exact same way. So you're actually trying to keep yourself alive, which is really funny. So anytime you have that thought, for example, people say in jiu-jitsu this all the time, right? They'll say oh, I'm not flexible enough. Oh, I'm too old for this move. I'm too much for this thing. I'm too this for that. All you're saying is, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. And the reason it's easy to default to I'm not enough is because then you don't have to do anything about it. So anytime you go I'm not flexible enough for this move, right? The reality is you should ask is there a way that I can perform this technique in a different way that I'll then be able to perform it? But that would take calories. So anytime you have that thought, oh, I don't have enough, I'm not flexible enough, you say, oh, thanks, brain, for trying to keep me alive, and for trying to save calories, because you're then going to have to spend calories to think about this problem. So anytime you have any of those thoughts, right? We do the name thing, right? It was really funny because for the first time in 40 or 50 GSTs, I messed up one name. And it was really funny. It never happened before. So, and it was fast. I went to do a speed run. I tried to do 30 names in an hour while teaching, which is kind of ridiculous, but still fun nonetheless.
That entire process is ridiculous.
It's really fun, but so I was and it was really funny because I literally looked at the guy, I said his name right beforehand, and then it was cool, and then I did it, and I'm like, and there's no name. There's just blank, and I'm saying 3-4 iterations of that name really, really close. His name was Cole, and I said Collins, Corey, Colin, and no Cole. Never came out. And I'm like,
now look,
great.
You remember.
And you know what's really funny? Yeah, of course, one you remember, right? Yeah. But two, it was interesting to see like how I respond, how do I feel, right, when something like that happens. And then you immediately, like, it's easy to say like, oh man, I messed up, this is terrible, like should never do, like, you know, like, oh, you're not good, like blah blah blah, right? And then you're like, does that change my worth? Does it change my value? Can I still add value to this group? The likelihood of the answer being yes is very high. So
I just want to take a second to shout out a few companies who've believed in me. These were one of our first official sponsors, so huge shout out. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Carbo Jewelers, established in 1997 on the values of honesty and integrity. Whether you're searching for the perfect piece, need expert repair services, visit Carbo Jewelers in Newark's Ironbound District, where your jewelry is always in safe hands. This episode is also brought to you by Continental Jewelers, proudly serving Hudson County, New Jersey since 1964. Whether you're seeking a timeless piece or need expert repairs, they've got you covered. Visit Continental Jewelers, your trusted source for all things jewelry. You can find them on Instagram at Carbo Jewelers or online at carbojewelers.com. Lastly, big shout out to Carbo Trading. Besides coins, precious metals, and jewelry, if it could be traded and collected, he's probably got it. They can be found on Instagram at carbo.trading. You can find all of our sponsors out online on our sponsor page at therelentlessproject.com. And what he's talking about is during GST, as they're instructing, I think ours was after lunch, so maybe 4 hours.
Yeah.
He sits down, oh, we're gonna get everyone's names, and shit you not, dude. Jonathan, Samantha, Adam, Mike, Tony.
Yeah.
Ish, boom, boom. I'm like, he is fucking nailing it all.
Yeah.
And I like to think I don't know how to do that, but that's my brain saving itself.
Thank you. Did you see that? Yeah.
Dude, so I was going to say, when you were saying that, I'm going to go even further. That is us telling ourselves, my effort is not worth the outcome.
Yeah.
My effort is not worth the perceived outcome. That's what you're saying.
Potentially, right? Like also like, yeah, that is yes. And why did you have that thought?
Exactly.
Is it not worth the outcome?
Oh, it is in the long
can
run.
be,
but
right?
it's us giving ourselves the excuse of like, me doing this extra step is not worth
for sure
that outcome.
Yeah. I also think about it this way, right? There's the outcome piece. There's also, if anything, that is a signal that it's hard enough and it's worth doing.
Growth and comfort don't live in the same place.
You see what I'm saying? So then every time I have that thought, I'm like, oh, this is actually going to be worth pursuing. Otherwise, my brain wouldn't be trying to protect me. It would be so easy that I would have already had done it.
Yeah. It's expending 0 calories.
For sure.
The effort?
Yeah, for sure. I would have already done it if it was that easy, right? I get zero anxiety about teaching a GST. Zero. Like I literally walk in and I just do a GST because I've done like God knows how many GSTs, right? So I used to have a little like, day one, like, oh my God, what's going to happen, right? I don't know, like what if I forget something? I'm not going to forget anything. I don't want to forget it. Like, I have everything written down. I have it in my brain. I've done it 1,000 times. Like, why would I forget?
Yeah. Do you even look at the book anymore?
No.
I don't think I've ever, You're just like, all right, we're going to go. And you start talking, then you flip the page. I'm like, how do you know where you're at?
Yeah, I'm not looking at the book. That's just for whatever. Yeah.
This is for you to follow. Next page. I'm sitting there like, how does he, this is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But, no, dude. GSTs. I learned more. Obviously I learned technique and stuff, but I learned more like how to talk to people, how to dress people, how to teach, dude, how to teach. And like I've gone to a lot of instructor classes, and a lot of companies do it well because there's a certain model that's being followed, and it falls onto, is this instructor likable and approachable?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because that's where the material is going to get transported.
100%.
But it was that learning how to teach. You guys do it in such a way that you were essentially, and this is Ishmael's summarization, but it's not true. You were essentially like shitting on us without shitting on us. The whole class. And we didn't know that because you've taught it in a way. And then by the end, I realized like every time you guys were like, oh, man, that's a good one, but what about this? I was like, he was basically telling me, you're stupid, that's dumb, this is the way it should be done. So that's how I told myself in my brain. Obviously, that's not how you guys did it. But that helped me change how I approach, especially law enforcement.
For sure.
Where there's a lot of ego.
Oh, yeah.
If we're doing something and I say, why did you do that? That was dumb. That was wrong. You're going to get us killed.
Yeah.
they're not going to listen to anything else I have to say because I just told him he's the biggest piece of shit on earth.
What loop did you just go through just now?
Huh?
What loop did you just go through right now? Where did you go immediately? To death, right? You're going to think you're going to die.
Yeah.
You see, that's a slippery slope. You just committed a cognitive fallacy. Classic.
And as an instructor, if you're not aware of that, you're putting these students in that position.
100%.
Well, now the material you're trying to translate to them, it's not going to.
Yeah. Has somebody in that person's position made a mistake on a technique and survived?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course, right? It happens all the time, right? So what's the percentage likelihood that is the very thing that will get them killed?
And that's it's
where you
I'm
go
saying,
there, right?
Like, it was more of a psychology
100%.
class.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's what makes it very, very interesting and different because a lot of the classes I go to, it's like, hey, these are the principles, these are the techniques, and it's cool. It's like, hey, when you're teaching this, make sure you include this, make sure you roll your hand so you're not injuring your partner. It's a lot of technical stuff, right? And like this class was that with like a teacher psychology.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm always into, like, in college I took psychology because
courses,
I love figuring out how people's brain works and why and stuff like that. And the instructor would come in and he'd be like, today we're going to talk about abortion. This is why I'm for abortion. Immediately half the class is segmented, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The next day, hey, we're going to talk about abortion. This is why I'm against abortion.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I see what he's doing. He's opening up the ability for you to like think, see both sides. So like he did that with all kinds of abortion, capital punishment, like all the hot topics, right?
Yeah.
So like it was a very difficult class for a lot of people, but by the end of it, we were all like, wow, like there's so much more to this world than just what I think of things. Yeah, I think that debate should be something that is taught very, very early, and you should be able to, if you cannot articulate the other point, you actually don't understand it well enough. So when people say like, you know, oh, these like, people say like, you know, oh, these like stupid Republicans or these like, you know, like whatever liberal, right? Like they'll go like on either side, they'll just call each other, you know, uneducated that, I'm like,
or stupid. And you're like, wait a minute, like what are you talking about, right?
All Republicans, all liberals. And
you're
like,
telling me that like, you know, 50% of the country is like, you know, that dumb, like that's crazy, right? On either side, that is insane. So
with any debate, if we're debating something and now I'm starting to attack you, it's like, oh, you're not even listening to what I'm saying. You don't care about the conversation.
Nope.
You just want to be right.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's no argument in the world. Not no, but
it's
unlikely. Very hard to convince someone when they're not trying to be convinced. Right? Like if I'm going into a debate, like I don't even know, like jiu-jitsu, what? Gi versus no gi. Right? If I'm strong no gi, and my whole goal is just to show you why you're wrong. You're not going to convince me because I'm not approaching it intentionally. For sure. But if I'm going into the debate, like which one is the best? Because I want to know, right? I want to know which one's the best, so I can train in that. Now I'm open to this conversation, and you may learn something. Yeah, and it's the best for what, right? Like, what are we trying to accomplish out of the thing? So, if like on the debate front, right? Like, what are we? If you can articulate or decide you don't understand it well enough, and then past that is. What is the outcome? What are you trying to get out of this even to begin with? So what kind of truth are you trying to unearth? So you can talk about gi versus no gi, but the reality is like what's best for what, right? If you're probably competing on the gi, you should train on the gi. If you're competing on no gi, you should compete no gi. You should train no gi, right? That only makes sense. If you're on a street fight, in all likelihood, you should train for punches. You should train for actually getting hit in the face, headlocked, and weapons, and getting away and creating space and time and distance and all these things that are relevant to street fighting, right? So you should try as much as possible to train the thing that you're going to do. And because specificity is king when it comes to that. So do you guys offer a self-defense class in your school? Oh, yeah. Is that something you offer as well? It's mandatory for all beginners. You can't even begin to think about rolling before you go through that. Really? Yeah. So you guys structure almost like a curriculum. Yeah. For beginners, it's entirely built on self-defense. What are the odds? This is just even on a right, let's talk a little, even if you shift towards marketing, right? What's the percentage likelihood of somebody walking into a school and saying, I want to be a jiu-jitsu world champion? How many people have ever walked into school and said that? They've never done jiu-jitsu before. Yeah. They just heard about jiu-jitsu. I think they're more interested in learning the jiu-jitsu, and as they do it, they're like, wow, this is something I have a passion for, I like, and I'm or strong picking it up well. No, that's true.
So what do they say? Oh, I just want to learn how to defend myself. Oh, I want to lose weight. I want to do this. I want to do that. Right? So why are you catering for something that such a small percentage of the population wants to do anyways? Which is very interesting.
Why do gyms do that?
Huh?
Why do gyms do that?
That's a great question.
You've been to 500,000 gyms.
Yeah. I don't know. We don't. Yeah. I think that it's because there's a little bit of tradition where it's like, oh, we always done it this way, therefore we're going to continue doing it this way. And I can somewhat respect that, but the appeal to tradition is always kind of whack, right? So if you're going to do something, make sure that it's done because you believe in it to be true, not because you actually, if you can't articulate your beliefs, they are near yours, they're somebody else's. So they're like, oh, because I always done it this way. That's actually not your belief. Somebody else told you that, and you don't actually know why you want to do that thing. You're just parroting. So, and a lot of instructors are that way. They cannot justify why they do the things that they do. They just do it because that's how that was always done. So, again, I'm a really, really big fan of that concept because so many people have such strongly held beliefs, and they're not even theirs. And you're like, man, like, why do you even believe this thing? And then the moment they get questioned, they get super defensive. And the reason why they get so defensive is because they actually cannot articulate it. Just like a fighter that can't fight, but saying they can't. The moment that you actually threaten them, they scream a lot, they talk a lot. But you notice the people that are very, very articulate, they're so calm when they speak. And like, they're willing to go into the debate. They're willing to go in there and like actually have an exchange of ideas and willing to even acknowledge points on the other side. Right. So
because your point, you believe in your stand so strong.
Yeah.
That doesn't take away from it.
No. Yeah.
So
if anything, it adds, right? Like, why would I not take your point? It is possible that there are some things that, right? Like, for example, if you roll on day one, what are the things that are negative, right? Would be increased risk of injury. You're reinforcing habits that are instinctive, and they're not good, right? So how many moves do you learn on day one? One or two, right? Now you have 2 moves and you're trying to perform something that involves potentially several hundred, right? So you have no base so you're just making stuff up. And if you wanted to reinforce making stuff up, they don't need to train. They already have that. That's why they're doing it. They already have that skill set. So what should you do? You should then use, some function of specificity, some function of specific training to create new habits, and then you reinforce those habits when you're sparring. Sparring is not for creation of habits, for reinforcement, right? So you want to create some new habits when you're drilling, when you're, potentially even doing like some heavier drilling or like drilling under resistance, but then it translates much better to sparring, right? But when you're sparring, you're just doing the things that you already know what to do. And if they know nothing, why are you reinforcing that? It's going to take longer to break that. So
you offer essentially like a boot camp for jiu-jitsu, kind of like to create good habits, reinforce those good habits,
100%.
to then
start sparring.
You can be able to buld off of these habits.
Yeah, we have very, 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 very. I don't remember last time somebody got injured. I actually think it was women empowerment class. The lady like posted her hand funny, literally trying to get up herself, not even like with another person on top, and she like hurt her shoulder. You're like, oh, well, that kind of stuff will happen, right? It's movement. So, and it's a freak accident, right? On her part. But past that, like nobody gets hurt. Why? Because you don't have bad habits. You're not making anything up, right? Like how many people are like, oh, white belts are really dangerous. Yeah, because you let them be.
Yeah. Our gym actually, I don't know if it's an actual rule, but you can't do open mat until you get 3 stripes or approved by a coach.
Perfect.
Because it's not like it's just it's a mitigation thing.
Ours is 3 stripes as well. You're not allowed to roll until you get 3 stripes.
Yeah, like you want to make sure you're, because then in that process of getting the 3 stripes, they're ensuring you know how to defend yourself.
Oh yeah.
You know how to approach your training partner, and that you have the skills necessary to be able to participate in a live roll, because there's a lot of unfactored circumstances that occur in a live roll, right? Like when we're drilling, it's very this, then this, then this, then this, repeat.
For sure.
In a live roll, you're not in that position to hit the armbar anymore. You have to hit the armbar from a different position. But you've built the principles
for sure
to understand, okay, I still need the fulcrum, I still need the leverage, I still need so you're applying the same principles. You didn't see it in this position before, but you know the principles well enough. Yeah,
one of the great abilities of our brain is to derive possibilities, right? That's the reason why we have so few kids in comparison to like dogs and other animals. So anytime you have because we can create a scenario in your head, create a different version of you that will be able to then run the scenario, right? Let's say like, hey, you have to clear this building. You can literally imagine right now you clearing this building 20, 30, 40 different ways. And you can run all these scenarios in your mind. Other animals don't have the capacity. So what do? They actually make 20, 30 kids. So then 20, 30 ishlupes will go running around.
We don't need
and then like, and then like 10 of them get killed, right? And then the 10 that survive would then know the new routes, right? And they'll continue evolving in that way. So that's why you see animals being so cohesive when they're hunting, is because the ones that survive are the ones that knew how to perform routes better, right? So humans have the ability to derive that. We don't have to actually put ourselves through it. We can imagine it and we can make it happen that way.
So, trial and error physically versus mentally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we can then we can derive something from specificity and apply it into live sparring. But the reality is you're likely better off once you have enough specific training, understanding what are some of the variables, what are some of the invariables of every position and attempting to create those circumstances, right? So I don't know, you can come up with anything. Like you have like a foot lock, right? You need a circle around his foot. I need my hips close to your hips. And if I want to submit you, I need to have my chest moving away from your chest. Those are things that need to happen if you want to have a foot lock, if you want to have a heel hook, all those things need to happen. A closed loop around the ankle, right? Or a closed loop around the ankle for a straight ankle lock. My hips close to your hips. If I start moving my chest away from yours, that's when you're going to start getting submitted. Same thing on the heel hook. You're going to start moving my chest away from yours. That's when you're going to get the break. So there are things that are variables. There are things that are invariable. That's an invariable anytime you get a full lock. So understanding that you need to create those shapes and you need to create those circumstances is beneficial to an extent, right? So
it's essentially chess.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
Human chess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I need a bigger studio. Dude, I want to like when we're having these conversations. I want to be able to like show me.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude,
that would be pretty fun.
But maybe one day.
Yeah. So then you you can incorporate specific drilling, showing you how to perform the full lock itself. Then you add another degree of like, okay, create this circumstance, right? You have your feet in certain positions, and then from there you then apply to sparring, right? So we like that idea of layering how much you do at a time, and we try to do that every single class with the students. So you can show them static and then try to do sparring. That's very tough. You can do static, positional, and then sparring. That's likely one of the best, right? But you can also do static, positional with constraints, then positional, then sparring. Because you can guide positional into things that you're very familiar with. And if I make it to where there are constraints or where you can go, then you're forced to go into positions that are not necessarily as good as you thought you were. And we like that too. So we have these layers.
And that's that's the best progression that I've seen for myself.
Yeah.
It's
Same.
like whenever I want to get good at something, that's literally the process I follow.
Oh yeah.
You know, oftentimes you hear, you want to get good at something, go open mat.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I'm not good
that's
at
a lot.
this,
Yeah, that's going to be very tough.
yeah,
That's
it's
a
gonna
long
be
way
tough.
to go. Yeah.
Guess what I'm going to end up doing at open mat?
The things they're already good at.
Positional. Well,
Yeah, or that.
That's what I
Yeah,
end up
yeah,
doing.
for sure.
I go positional, position, with constraints, and then all right, now let's try it in a live setting. That's what open mat ends up being for me.
Yeah.
Because if I want to drill something and get comfortable with it, I'm not going to go in there with the skill set I have because I don't have it. That's why I'm trying to do this.
Yeah.
And you can apply that with everything in life, business, whatever you're like. Work yourself up to the goal that you have in mind.
Yeah.
Because if you just go straight to making it, like starting a podcast, if you're just like, let's just get mics and sit down and talk, that's going to be a lot of active learning.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm still doing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know?
Imagine Imagine if we approach firearms training like most gyms approach jiu-jitsu training. Hey, here's your gun. This is how you cock it, and this is how you put the magazine in it. Go shoot each other.
Hit this target over there.
See what I'm saying? Yeah, not like no. Live sparring is like actually fighting a real person. Do you see what I'm saying? One thing would be like, okay, this is the gun. This is how you hold it. This is how you angle it, right? This is a little target there. It's pretty big. It's very close to you. We just want you to hit the target a couple of times.
Get comfortable.
With feel what it feels
doing.
like. Feel how the coil affects your hand. Feels how the sound affects your feelings and whatnot. That's what you do first, right? So you let him shoot at the target first. Don't put him on the kill house on day one. Right? But then you're like, okay, live sparring, go. Like, right, throw the grenade and get in there.
You want to learn how to shoot guns? Let's go to the shoot house.
Yeah.
Whoa, hold on. I don't even have movement down yet.
For sure, yeah.
That's a good, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu is easy. Everyone starts a gym now, and it's like, let's train jiu-jitsu. There's so many things that get skipped in that.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that's what pushes some people away from jiu-jitsu, too.
For sure,
It's scary, right? Like, that, if it wasn't for just me being very hard-headed, I would have never started jiu-jitsu.
For sure.
My first jiu-jitsu experience, I did MMA back in the day, but I never would say I have jiu-jitsu experience because I rolled on the ground with some guys before a fight to get comfortable on the ground. And they're like, at the gym I went to, hey, do you have jiu-jitsu experience? No, I do not.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, we'll put you with an upper belt. I'm like, oh, okay. Like in my mind, I'm like, fuck, shouldn't I be with someone newer? But I'm thinking now later, I'm like, that part was right.
Yeah,
you want someone who's going to guide that
100%.
interaction.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I ended up getting fucking elbowed in the face multiple times.
Fun, love it.
And I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going
That's
on
ridiculous.
here?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I'm like, what is going? Dude, I'm literally like starting to bleed and shit to the point where I just got really, and it turned into a fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then
they wanted the gym. You fought the guy. Yeah,
we didn't throw blows, but dude,
it was pretty close. Yeah.
Every time I gripped him up, I boom.
Like, a little extra love. Yeah.
Hey, you're fucking me up. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
By the end, dude just gets up, leaves. I'm like, dude, what was that about?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm never going to this fucking. This is jiu-jitsu. This sucks.
Yeah.
You know, then I found Stout, and it was a completely different experience.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
you're lucky that you went to a different place. Most people would have stopped there, and
that's
they're
what
never
I'm
going
saying.
again.
I was just, I knew this is something I needed to do for work.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't keep doing this job and not learn how to control someone.
Sure.
Like, it's the most important part of this job.
Yeah.
Buying myself time, buying them time, decision making.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to do this.
Yeah.
Like, even if it sucks. Like, if that's what it is, it's going to be a lot harder for me to see it through, but I have to.
No, I don't have to.
Luckily, I found an alternative that approaches jiu-jitsu the way I feel it should be approached.
Yeah, for sure. No, like, right, that would be, that's so crazy, right? And for the same reason why you wouldn't put the person in the kill house is because primarily it's unsafe, right? The chance of them shooting somebody else by accident or themselves is really high. That's why we don't let them spar on day one, is because the chance of them shooting themselves, like, yeah.
You ever get someone who's like, comes into the gym, like, I want to be a fighter? And it's like,
very
what experience
rare.
do you have?
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
It's like,
you're like, okay, yeah.
We got a lot of things we got to do before that.
Yeah, we can. I mean, I'll happily help you get there, right? One of the reasons why I train so much for myself, I really enjoy jiu-jitsu. I love the puzzle. I love the idea of, like, being the best version of myself. But I am much better as a person that is of service than I am of service for myself. I find it much easier to work for others than I do for myself. So, in order to be of service, you need to be fit for service. So I always think about, like, why I would be the last person. I would never want to be the rate limiting factor to how good you want to be in jiu-jitsu. So I'm going to be as good as I can myself, so I can give you as many tools as possible for you to achieve your goals, right? And the moment that I no longer can serve you, right, I'm either going to send you to somebody that can, or I'm going to find a way to, to guide in a different way, or keep aiding you and keep helping you, right? I have a student that was a student for a very long time. She still comes by, Maka, right? She won ADCC Oklahoma. She's really, really good. And she trained with me for a very long time, and then she started going to Austin, right, to train with John. It makes perfect sense. Why would you not go there? Right? So she trained for a long time, like going there, coming back, and she also trained at another gym in our area. Nestor, dope dude, Coastal, he's awesome. He's really, really good. Him and Frank, which is the previous owner of the school, they used to own the school together, and they had a split, and it was fine. But Nestor wanted to take it in a different direction. Frank wanted to go with the Gracie system, right? No heartburn on either. Pick whatever you want to do, right? So, and then Maka trained with Nestor for a very long time, and she always went back and forth between the gym. She goes, "Hey, Bernardo, I love the way that you approach training, right? Like you're skilled and you're fun and entertaining, and on top of that, you help me a lot with my game, right? And at the same time, I'm like, Maka, go train there. Like, you should spend a lot more time in Austin. You can get way more bang for your buck, right? Then being with me here, you also get more training partners. Your per hour improvement would be higher there than you are with me.
Yeah, because there's so many people at that level.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I get that
yeah,
too. Our gym
100%.
sent a kid down there too, and it was like
best thing ever, right?
You can't pay enough for stuff like to be submerged.
Oh yeah.
In that environment.
Yeah. Had that kid ever come back and train with you guys again?
Yeah, I think he's taking time off, but like he was already, dude. He was a blue belt tapping out black belts.
Yeah.
And, honestly, he's like a was it a phenom?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
literally a jiu-jitsu phenom.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just like he's the kid who would watch a technique on YouTube at like 4 times speed. He would watch it. It just fucking
just do
like,
it.
boom,
Yeah.
and then go hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Like which blows my mind. One, I got to watch a YouTube video at normal speed 10 times.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that part. Okay, I missed that part. This dude fast forwards it. Okay, and then goes and hits it.
I'm a watcher too, so I'm much more of a visual learner than a kinetic learner. So if I watch you do it one time, I often can replicate it relatively well.
I need to feel it. I need to like put myself in that position to like
more kinetic than you are visual. Yeah.
Because like, let's say I put myself in a bad position. I know what that feels like. I never want to do that again. So now I need to mitigate that.
Yeah.
Where if I'm watching you and you look comfortable in that position, I'm gonna reinforce like, oh, that's an okay position to be in.
Yeah, for sure.
But if my arm is hyperextended over here,
not good.
No good.
Never happened. Yeah.
So kinetic is more my style. Like I need to just do it, fail, and fail fast so that I can get over that hump.
Yeah. It's really interesting because this is kind of funny, but one of the things that that over time, right, you start discovering with therapy and everything is that one, I'm relatively sensitive. It sounds kind of crazy to think of me as a person that's that way, but I experience discomfort very strongly, and I really dislike it. So I avoid it very, very, very intently. So if something makes me uncomfortable, I would avoid it. Like, I just don't like that feeling to begin with. So something bad happens in jiu-jitsu to me, I'm very good at making sure that doesn't happen again. And that's why one of the reasons why I devote so much time to it, which is very strange to think about it that way. But, and there's so many ways that you can experience discomfort in jiu-jitsu.
Getting on the mat is discomfort.
Yeah,
man.
for
like,
sure. Yeah.
It's like, well, the goal here is for one of us to lose.
Yeah.
Like that immediately is like,
already.
Okay. And like jiu-jitsu is one of the only MMA, what would you call them, practices?
Yeah.
That you can train 100%.
Oh, that's so true.
And
for sure.
mitigate injury.
Oh yeah.
You know, if me and you, we're both want to box.
Yeah.
We go 100%.
Bro,
we're
that's
taking
not
licks,
good.
man.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
brain damage, all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, it's relatively, if something starts to hurt, you tap. Boom, done.
For sure.
You know, so like just having that in your mind, hey, we're both going, and it's gonna be an interesting, spicy time.
Oh yeah.
Already creates that friction.
Yeah. Even on that front, right? Like you see, for example, Thai boxers, right? And when you go to Thailand and you watch them box, they very often do it with just the wraps on their hands. They punch so lightly. But because they understand that light punches with really high volume, you create higher skill level versus less volume with really hard strikes, which is often what's done in the US. So the smarter people that I've seen in jiu-jitsu train lighter with higher volume because volume negates luck. That's it. So anytime, like, right, I'll tell you an example as a function of studying for a test, right? Let's say you have a test, and out of that test, there is 20 banks of questions. You can try to study 3 of those, and you might get lucky, and out of those 3, 100% of your test comes out from those 3. That is possible. It's not likely, but it's possible. Therefore, you can get lucky with very little volume. But if you study all 20 and you know every single answer of all 20, what's the likelihood of you not getting 100? So volume there negated luck. That's how you do it. There's obviously different types of luck, but something that's predictable, and movement is predictable, right? There's not that many new movements. It's very, very rare that somebody discovers something truly new. That's somewhat unlikely. So it's possible to predict in several ways how many possible movements will happen in jiu-jitsu, and therefore you can study for almost all of them. So it's possible through a lot of volume for you to be able to get very, very good. So if you go really hard in a row, how many positions do you hit in 1 hour? You might hit like, I don't know, because you're holding, for example, side mount really tightly. You're holding mount.
You're stale for a lot of it.
Yeah, you end up having a lot of inactivity for the majority of the round, I would argue, when you're going really hard. In comparison to you going much lighter and having some degree of allowance, you will likely have a lot less staling, and then you're gonna have in that same hour, instead of hitting 30 moves, you might hit 120, 150 moves. So, and then you can go for 3 hours instead of 1 hour because you're not going as hard.
Yeah, and that's like the whole premise of, not the whole premise, but that's what flow grappling is, or flow rolling.
Yeah.
You know, you're going in there and you're intentionally giving some things up to put yourself in something else. You're not like trying to barrel your way through.
Nope. Yeah.
And when you see these two people doing it, you're like, oh, looks easy.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do because it's more mentally taxing than it is physically, because you're going through so many positions and dealing with so many issues.
For sure.
You know? So like I struggle with flow rolling.
Yeah.
Like I'll
hard,
stop. We'll stop. I'll be like, And then upper belt's like, put your arm under here. Do you want to? Oh, okay. But and then we're back into it. So it's like there's always pauses, but
no, but those pauses are helpful, right? So, like making mistakes is part of learning. Forgetting is part of learning, right? It would be unlikely they would never forget anything, right? So part of the thing is it's a natural piece. So if you forgot something, good. That means you're learning. You're actually trying. So I don't get too caught up on that. I do have a very good memory. So it's something that, like, not that I take too much pride on it because it's somewhat outside of my control, outside of the fact that I study a lot to be able to then retain those things. And I created a lot of processes around it to be able to remember those things. So there is some degree of, inherent capacity, and there's also word capacity, right? So
how do you remember all the names?
I usually somewhat like, for example, this week I just look at your face and then I try to remember your face. It's very strange on that one, but if it's over 100, 150, now you're talking like, for example, Arthur, right? It's easy to remember, like, okay, King Arthur. So instead of imagining that person in just their face, you imagine him ripping a sword out of the ground, right? So whenever they're standing there, I'll be like, oh, that's Arthur. He's ripping that sword. It'd be hard to forget that.
You attribute something that you can remember
attribute more meaning. Yeah.
Because you know King Arthur more than you know
that person.
This
100%. Yeah. And the more absurd you make it, the better it will be. The more likely you are to remember it. So there's a book called Moonwalking with Einstein. I don't know if you ever heard of that book.
No, but I've gotten into reading. It's like
bro, reading is the cheat code for learning, for sure. You can try to have experiential experience and learn it from yourself, and in all likelihood, somebody else already done the things that you wanted to do in life, right? And was successful. So you can have 20, 30, 40, 50 lifetimes worth of experience just by reading the things that they've done. So it's much easier to bypass all that they went through that pain, honor their pain by learning them and then standing on top of their shoulders so you can then push the field forward instead of you trying to figure out something that's already been figured out.
Yeah, don't recreate the wheel. And the fact that these people are having talks and writing books,
100%.
They're trying to push people forward. Yeah. So it's like, it makes no sense when we ignore that and try to figure it out ourselves.
No, there's obviously, right, there's a degree of ownership when you figure it out on your own that's just different. But at the same time, I had a coach in swimming. He was really funny. And he used to say, because we'd be like, hey, where'd you get this from? He's like, oh, from so-and-so. And he was like, man, you're always copying stuff, right? Like, and then he used to say, like, hey, man, I didn't create toilet paper, but I'm smart enough to use it. And you're like, facts. Makes perfect sense.
That's what I do as an instructor. Like, and I literally tell people, because I'm like, hey, people are like, can I get your curriculum? Sure. I don't have a curriculum. I have bunch of stuff that I've put together that I feel works for me and the department and the people I train. Like, I will give it to you. However, you have to understand that this is something I put together so it works for me. So you need to look this over, but then do the same thing for yourself.
For sure.
And it's so funny. Like Craig Douglas, I do a lot of Shiv works, a lot of his stuff. Because it applies to policing.
For sure.
Usually firearms and stuff like that. So like a lot of the material is that, and people are like, dude, I've never heard. I'm like, well, I didn't hear about it until I heard about it.
Yeah, of course. So, don't reinvent the wheel, right? Like people have been shooting each other for a really long time. We've been punching each other and grappling each other for a really long time. There's a pretty good chance that most things, or a lot of things, have already been figured out. Where did jiu-jitsu come from?
It was Japan, right?
Technically, it was the first scripts I think are from India, and then it got moved to Japan.
And that was like,
many years ago.
So like and how many and we still do it. You know, and it's always funny when someone's like, I created this, and it's like, well, it's been out. Like you've put it together in your way, and that's value.
Yeah, for sure.
That's value.
Yeah. How knowledge is expanded on is somebody will have to have gone through that first experience, and then we built on top of that first experience, right? So. And then you then have an experience because you already have the knowledge of the previous generation, and then you continue to advance the field forward, right? That's how we discover things. That's how we continue to advance things. And it will be a disservice to jiu-jitsu to honor the things that were taught before. So you should learn all the things that were taught before you even attempt to begin to push the field forward. You look at the people that are really, really, really pushing it. They had instructors that are third, fourth, fifth generation jiu-jitsu people, right? They've been learning so many things from the people from the past that they can then start advancing it in their own way. So when when you think about that, like, right, if you put 20 guys in a room and you just tell, hey, go spar each other until you get really good at jiu-jitsu, and you put 20 guys in a room with one professor, in all likelihood, the 20 guys that had a professor will crush those 20 people that try to figure it out on their own.
Yeah, because it goes back to reinforcing bad habits versus...
Yeah. And they might eventually get good, but they will never be as good as somebody
but the
that has
learning curve
generations
is different than
of understanding. Yeah.
than this learning curve, right?
Yeah.
Like this one's a J curve. This one is a J curve in a different way.
Oh my God, yeah, right. Like, imagine you trying to figure out like the like, I don't know, the Pythagorean theorem, right, or something along those lines. You're trying to just do math on your own for
Can't
forever.
even spell Pythagorean.
Yeah, right. So it would be things that would be extremely difficult, but somebody already figured it out. So let's move on from that, right? Like, there's no longer interesting to learn, no longer interesting to pursue. It's interesting to absorb, right? So and absorbing knowledge is much easier than creating knowledge. So that's why I'm very big. I've created very few things as a function of my personal experience, but I molded things from other things and then push a little bit here, a little bit there, and that's been helpful, right? In being on the forefront of certain things. So
yeah, like what you're doing with these gyms.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
I wish we could talk about that.
No, we can talk some. You can talk about let's talk about it. So it's just fun, right? So a couple of things as a function of general ideas around jiu-jitsu, right? The first one is, if you put 100 people in a room, right? We had this conversation the other day. It's really funny, right? If you put 100 people in a room, how many people know what jiu-jitsu is? 1, 2, if you're lucky, you know.
They say less than 1%.
Less than 1%, right?
Train it, so we'll get 5% of the people who know what it is.
Yeah,
actually.
So and out of those 5 people, how many would do this? The little karate hands.
Exactly.
Right?
That's why I said who actually knows.
Knows it. I think is very, very few. So if you try to pull people from like, hey, I teach jiu-jitsu, come learn them from my gym, you're likely not going to have that many people. If you say, hey, you want to learn how to fight, how many people know what fighting is? You already have more people in that way. So fighting is a much bigger thing than jiu-jitsu as a function of people's understanding. And then you have something like, then what do you want for your life? Do you want to go out and fight all the time? Is that what you want? Is that something that's missing in your life? Or is that something that, you had the curiosity when you were a kid and then you want to pursue that? So now you're competing with taekwondo, karate, blah, 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 blah. You're competing with all these other things, and there's a good chance that they're going to pursue any of those based on either convenience or familiarity, right? So they heard about karate. They might have heard about taekwondo. They might have heard about judo. So you then want to go after that, and you can, and it's perfectly fine. But there's some things that are more like, universally true, as like, for example, like, right, if you want to approach fitness in a way, right? So how many people want to then become fitter? A lot of people want to become fitter, right? And especially when you have over, I think it's 30 or 40% of the population being obese. I would argue that a lot of those people do not wish to be the way that they are. And if you want to change that, then you have an opportunity to change that, right? So if you try to onboard in that way, it might be interesting, right? Same as if you try to approach it from a function of, hey, do you want to transform your body? Do you want to transform your mind? Do you want to transform yourself? How many people would like to be a slightly different version of themselves for the better? And why you're not? Then,
I think a lot of people would argue that the thing stopping them is, I don't know how to, or
exactly,
the unfamiliarity has me scared.
That's where
because how many times do we hear
now you have a problem?
Gym, right?
Yeah.
Gyms, man. People are gonna be watching me. People. That comes from a sense of self-doubt.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Like when you go to a gym, no one cares. No one's watching you. Yes. Everyone's there focusing on themselves. That's why we're in the gym.
Yep, 100%.
But it's easy to instill this fear in ourselves. Man, like they're fit, I'm not. Now I'm coming into this new environment. That's the same with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
They know how to fight. I don't. I'm going to go in there and get beat up. Yeah. When in reality, the safest person in that gym is the new person.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like any good gym. Because you're going to get approached in a complete different. I always tell people this. They're like, man, like, I was like, I didn't start getting beat up until I got my blue belt.
Yeah.
When I got my blue belt, it was like the coaches were like,
okay,
all right,
let's have some fun. Yeah.
And I'm like, and I was like, dude, I was learning so much faster and so much better. And that comes, obviously I'm learning a whole new skill.
Of course. Yeah.
But I was nowhere in the levels of positions that I've been put in as a white belt. Then I get a blue belt and it's like, this is what jiu-jitsu is. Okay. I can't just half-ass a class anymore. I got to be very intentional.
Yeah. And that's a good thing, right? That, like, imagine if you, that also goes to a function of enoughness, right? What's enough? I don't know what enough even is to begin with, right? Like and you can talk a little bit about that, but it would be a shame for you to get to this level and then you just like, okay, this is it.
You know,
and you
sad?
never get better. Yeah.
That's what happens with cops.
Oh yeah.
All I
for
need
sure.
is a blue belt to be sufficient. They get the blue belt and they never train again.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude,
And
you
it's
just
perishable, right? So,
you just got a lick of the interest of knowledge.
Yeah,
like now
for
it's
sure.
where you dig in.
Yeah.
You
You know
know?
why they quit? I have a theory around
What's
why
your
they
theory?
quit. Yeah. It's because the way that they approach training and the way that they approach self-improvement is very shame driven. And so when they make a mistake, they go, they are always like questioning. Like they will do 10 things right, one thing wrong. They'll beat themselves up for the one thing wrong. And then what happens is that will serve you really well. You'll get very, very good from using shame, from using fear for you to get really good. And then it becomes dysfunctional after a time, because the moment that you realize, and that usually happens around blue belt, how much more there is to learn. Because you're like, oh, this is cool, this is fun. And you just kind of like, right? But you're still like, oh man, I didn't do this thing this well. I didn't do that thing that well. And like, oh man, if I don't do this well, I'm going to get beat up. And you're like using fear and shame to push you forward. Then by the time you actually realize how much more there is to learn, if you were to continue with that same pattern, you would not last.
It's not
And then you
sufficient.
realize-
It's not efficient.
Yeah. You then realize how much more beating yourself up you will do, and then you quit. That's my theory. So I think you should celebrate wins way more often in jiu-jitsu. Way more often.
Yeah, because the further you go, the less you're gonna have.
Oh, yeah.
But the more appreciative you are, of
100% when it
those
does happen.
wins. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Early on, this like the glitch becomes the feature, right? So it's really funny how early on you're like, I don't want to get beat up. I don't want to get beat up. I don't want to get beat up. And then you get really, especially when you get really, really good, you get excited when somebody pulls something on you. You go, what did you do? That was amazing. And
Yeah, I
you're
need
like,
to learn that.
Yeah,
I need
show
to
me
learn
that. That was so cool, because it's so rare then that you're like, oh my God, that's dope. Like, please do that again. Let me see what you did there. So you can figure it out and make it to where it doesn't happen again. And then you have to like, now like I fly to New Wave. I train there. I love hanging out with those guys because I get much faster feedback loops than anywhere else. So I love hanging out with him. And here on right, they're so good. When I go there, I get these feedback loops right away on things like, oh, I never thought about this way. I never thought about that way. I never thought about this, right? And it's so cool because you get exposed to things that, in all likelihood, if I train in my gym forever, you'll be like the champion of your gym, but how much are you actually growing?
what are you gaining from that after? At some point, it becomes perishable because you're using the same subject matters, I guess. And that's how you have to approach life. Like when you fail, let's say you want to do something so bad and you fail at it. Like you should embrace that because now you get to learn in that field that you want to become a subject matter expert, or like this is what you want to do. You want to learn. Where do you learn? If you get it right every single time,
oh, bro, you're not actually
like you're not learning. You're just
sure.
you're getting by, and then you're going to reach a point where now you have to learn, and it's like, fuck, what do I do here? Because you didn't do the learning back there, so you're so far ahead, and now you're forced to learn. You know, so like I always tell people, life doesn't get easier. You're just better equipped at dealing with life and with issues. Jiu-jitsu doesn't get easier. You get better equipped at dealing with the positions you're put in.
For sure.
You know, and like it's so funny when you see two white belts rolling, right? And you're like, wow, it looks like a fucking train wreck. You know, and then you see two black belts rolling. But like they're both experiencing discomfort. They're both experiencing issues they have to fix and go over and process through. It just looks very different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, now you put a black belt and a white belt, and it's like,
it's a walk in.
it's like, okay. I mean, you understand. At GST, I was bullying Devin, and you're like, hey, you want to roll someone? Come over here. And I'm like, damn, I just put a target on my back.
No. It's just like, right? Like, and the funny thing is I have no intention of actually just going there and beating you up, right? But I do, I can tell the people in the GSTs that they want to feel the next thing. And they just appreciate it. Like, you can always tell the students, they're like, bro, I never rolled with somebody like this. Please show me what that feels like. And they're just curious, right? So you can tell the ones that appreciate that, right? Nobody in the GST comes up to me and asks me to roll to feel 20% Bernardo. They want to feel the whole thing, right? So right, it's kind of one of those who's like,
oh, this is the level I can be. Like, how do I get there?
For sure.
And like, if you want to get to this level, what better person to talk to than someone who's there right now?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Or roll with.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, and it's so funny how mindset changes, right? Because when I first went to the gym, I'm like trying to pick the smallest partner, and like, and now I'm like, dude, who's here? Who's gonna like give me a run for my money? Like, because I'm here for an hour. I need to get everything I can. You know, so I'll roll with people and they'll put me in positions I never knew this body could be put in. You talk about being flexible.
Yeah.
My body is very flexible when I'm not doing it.
Like, involuntarily
me.
flexible.
Yeah. And I'm like, so it's interesting when I'm put in those positions. I'm like, oh, dude, like how, like, like, you know, and then the strength comes in, right? It's like, how did you manage this?
For sure. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, when you did that, they used my strength against me. Go figure.
Oh yeah.
Like, and it's like, oh, dude, how can I do that with people who maybe aren't as strong?
Yeah.
So now I'm using less effort, but more mind to get the outcome I want.
Yeah.
You know, and I love when I roll with people and they're like, oh, I knew you were going to do this. I'm like, how? Well, because you kept baiting it. You kept going for it. You kept going for it. And I'm like, you put me in a position so that I would do this, so that you can then put yourself in a position. Then I'll go home and start YouTubing. And that's what I do. Like,
sure.
I'm not a visual learner, but I'll go home and I'll in anything I'm doing, like anything involving the podcast or how to edit something, like I'll see someone do it. And then I'm like, all right, like, let me like double down on this by how do other people do it? How do they do it this way? Is does it translate to each other, or is this a quicker way? Like, did he not know this way? And now because I learned this, I now learn this way.
Yeah. Oh
you
yeah.
know? So dude, I love learning. Is like, I'm a professional learner.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do.
I like to think of myself in the same way, and I think it's something that we appreciate about each other too, which is we're constantly trying. Like, right? I don't remember last time I had a conversation, and like just like you were saying in the beginning, right? They were like, "Oh, we're in the same place," right? We understand something that's tricky, which is, if you if pain is a constant, then you should pick the one that would either make you more dollars or make you grow, right? So if you, let's say you were picking the example of the person that's only in that same gym and only in that same environment, they then become the best person in that gym. And they only do that. I am willing to bet that person will experience pain from stagnation.
Yeah.
For sure.
You're going to get,
there's no way they get bored. It's
enjoy.
Very hard and you're going to experience pain. The person that goes out and tries to find new things, they are also going to experience pain. So whether you're growing or you're stagnant, you're also going to experience pain. But only one is going to make you more dollars. So might as well
make your pain worth it.
100%, right? So like if you're, anytime you experience comfort for an extended period of time, you're going to have pain. So it's just the reality, right? So might as well pick the things that will advance you in life or make it to where you're then more valuable to society, more valuable to others, right?
Well, it's essentially the principle of, if I don't train or don't do anything, whether it's jiu-jitsu or fitness, I'm going to get a lot of health issues, joint pain.
Yep.
I'm going to experience a different type of pain.
Yep.
If I go to the gym, I'm going to experience soreness, failure.
Yeah.
That's pain.
Yeah.
One pain builds you, the other pain kills you slowly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And it's crazy how those two, like, you can apply those two together.
Again, pain is a signal that you're alive. That's it. If it's a constant, if you're growing or not growing, if it's a constant, if you're like, pick any other thing where that doesn't involve pain. I cannot come up with anything. Most things involve some degree of pain or discomfort, right? Therefore,
anything worth it, especially.
Yeah, for sure, right? Like, but even like anything, like even not worth it. Like, tell me one thing that doesn't involve that.
Professional Netflix watching.
Professional, I'm willing to bet if you're a professional Netflix watcher, you experience a ton of pain. A ton of pain. Not a little bit. You experience a ton of pain.
And it's crazy because when I took a year off because of my knee, I felt more pain and everything. I started getting back, and I'm like, wow, I don't move the same. And like now I have to run again. Right, because I couldn't run. So now I'm running, and I'm like, dude, it sucks to just stop doing stuff. So like, I'm just gonna keep doing stuff so I don't feel that pain again. I'm gonna feel this pain, so I don't feel this pain.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, I'd rather push through the knee pain and go this way than not deal with the knee pain, but deal with, dude. It was
you make your pain
spot.
meaningful, right? It's meaningful versus not meaningful.
Yeah.
Meaningless pain is just suffering. That's the problem. Meaningful pain is something that we are all willing to go through. Like people are willing to die for a lot of things, right? Like, right? You have a daughter, right? You're willing to put yourself through great discomfort to make sure that she's okay, right? So, and why would you do that? It's because you see meaning in it, right? Now you just, like putting yourself in a dangerous situation for no reason, that's meaningless, right? Therefore, you're going to experience suffering, and not only potentially you, people around you. So,
yeah, if a bear's in the woods, I think you told me this last time. I think this was your analogy. Hey, if a bear's in the woods, no one goes, I want to fight this bear. And then you go fight this bear and get clawed up.
Why do you have to go?
But if you
have to win.
This bear is attacking your kid, you don't even think about it.
You just go.
You just go.
For sure, you will go.
It's the same pain. One's worth it. One's not worth it. So that's it's an interesting way to put it.
So again, like you're either going to experience suffering or you're going to experience pain that would allow you to thrive or achieve another level in your life, right? So when people are like, that's why enough is so tricky, right? Because if you have enough for long enough, you're no longer enough for you, because then you're gonna then start experiencing suffering.
What is enough?
I don't know. I have no idea.
You know what enough is?
No, I have no idea.
Enough is your barrier that you're willing to endure, I feel. Like enough for me, right? Like what is enough?
Yeah.
You know, I work this job and I make $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
That I don't want to do anything else. That's enough. I am not willing to pass that barrier. This is what I'm willing to endure.
Yeah.
Right? But for other people, it's like, I need to make $100 billion.
Yeah,
I will do whatever to their barrier and what they're willing to do is a lot higher.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, what is enough?
Is either the standard for yourself or what you're willing to tolerate. So
that's better.
right. So
what are you willing to? Enough is what you're willing to tolerate.
Yeah, for sure. And we often say that you don't get what you deserve. You get what you tolerate.
Serious question.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about like doing talks? No, I'm serious, dude. Because like,
for sure,
you're like coming in here. I thought we were going to talk about GST, jiu-jitsu, just like every other episode with you, and we end up getting into so much deep shit that you can like. It's not jiu-jitsu. It's not life fitness. It's not fitness. It's life stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
The stuff you talk about is how to manage life. It just so happens to translate to what you do, jiu-jitsu.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, it's like I think it'd be very beneficial. I think a lot of people could benefit from like the shit you say and how you package it up and deliver it.
Yeah.
Like, I think.
Yeah.
You know, some seminars should include because you have a lot of experience with
thank you. Yeah.
You know, psychology and stuff like that. Like, I think it'd be something like a cool little extra to add to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I try to use the GSTs as an avenue to have those talks and to really try to help them up, right? Because one of the things is, my goal is not to get you to only be proficient in that week, right? My goal is to inspire you in a way that you then be proficient forever. So, and the only way that I know how to do that is to inspire you to train more, or inspire you to be a better version of you, or a more capable version of you. So if that's a requirement in order for you to be proficient forever, which is my goal, then I have to include those things. Otherwise, I'll just teach you the course. I'll just go there and be like, hey guys, these are the 40 techniques from GST, and I'll just hand it on to you. And
not even that. Here's the book. Thanks for like if that was the goal. Sure. Here's the book. Learn it. Look at YouTube.
Yeah, go watch the videos online. Right, you can do it by yourself. Yeah.
Like I think there's like when you think of coaching, it's not teaching someone a technique. It's how do you apply this in a wholesome way.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you come to a gym and your mind's not right, it's going to translate to how you perform in the gym.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like you ever been tired or had a bad day and then you go lift and your lift just sucks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, glad I went, but it's like, man, I didn't get what I came to get.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, but if you had someone there, like a partner, and you're talking life and you're talking that, and you're like,
so much help.
You're lifting and even if you're in a bad mood, your lift is just
getting there. Yeah, for sure. I could also make the case that even on that worst lift, you didn't go there and be like, I'm going to try to have a bad lift. That was your best lift.
Yeah, at that point.
Yeah, at that point, right? It's just what it is, So it's not like you didn't try. You did what you did best. And I think that most people do the best they can on the circumstances they're in. They just don't have good conceptual frameworks to be able to go around them. So, nor do they have a goal and a big enough goal or big enough inspiration or big enough. They have not found the meaning through their suffering. So they just don't know what to do. And if they don't have that thing, then how are you gonna? Why would you then endure it?
You need to do TED Talks.
Yeah.
I'm serious. You need to do TED Talks, dude. Like I this is coming from a professional way.
Yeah.
I could listen to you talk all day. And like people don't understand. These are our phone conversations.
Yeah, 100%.
These are literally our phone conversations. Like, hey, you got 5 minutes?
Yeah.
We're there 2 hours later. And we're both have shit to do, and we're like still in the conversation. You know, like, and I love it. Like, I hate talking on the phone.
Yeah.
Because it's always meaningless shit.
Yeah,
if it's something you can tell me through text, tell me through text. Don't call me. Hey, what time are you coming today?
Yeah.
I texted you it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to confirm. So text me.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, but like when we're talking stuff like this, you cannot do this through text. Like our threads would be each message
it would
like
be
that.
too long. Yeah, it's not worth it. It's very interesting, right? Like most people stay at a very surface level, and I just don't enjoy being there. So I'm gonna immediately I want to try to like.
Yeah, I'm not a surface level guy.
Yeah, it just doesn't. It's not as fun.
Not
yeah.
everyone is like that. So
No,
those are the
yeah.
people I'm just like, oh, cool, okay. But
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
I as deep as I can go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and again, like even on the tolerate piece, right? You just don't tolerate surface that well.
Yeah,
because you don't like it. Yeah,
yeah. It's
right?
just
So,
like it's.
yeah.
There's no meaning there for me.
There
Like,
you go. Right.
like, there's no
Yeah.
nothing's being exchanged,
Yeah.
right?
If texting is not that fun, make sure that you're texting for something that's meaningful, right?
yeah, like what time?
Therefore,
you're
you
gonna
now found something for your suffering, right? So now it becomes meaningful. Therefore, you're willing to text. Yeah, it's the same thing. Even on the even going back to the tolerate piece, right? Have you ever been to that weight? Everybody has that one weight that if they go there, they immediately go back and they get skinny again. Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah,
Where you hit the
230.
there you go. You hit the scale, you're like 230. You're like, fuck, I cannot go to 230, and you immediately get to like 220, and then you let it go, 230, and you go back. That's what you tolerate, and that's
Yeah, because then from 220 you can't get to 210.
Oh no,
But
it's
with
hard.
230 you can get to 220.
Yeah.
I'm talking about myself here.
Yeah, no. Hey, we been there.
Yeah,
right?
no,
So,
that's what you're willing to tolerate.
Yeah,
It's like, and
yeah.
it's so funny how either you're gonna make a decision or one's gonna be made for you.
Yeah.
But the outcome's the same.
Yeah. My tolerance for my physique is very, very high.
So I've seen.
Yeah. No, it's just and I don't know if it's inherent. I don't know if it's something that So it's a like I don't know.
He's blushing. Never knew he could blush.
Yeah, it's something that I actually don't know why I am that way, but I have a couple assumptions, right? I was a little chunkier when I was younger, and people used to make fun of it. And in all likelihood, that had some degree of inclination towards me not wanting to experience that pain anymore, right? Going back to the sensitive piece, right? Me being sensitive, I don't want to experience that again. Therefore, I know how people see you when you are in a different way. And if I have a control over that outcome, which I do, I have autonomy over my body. I have, like to think I have some degree of free will. Therefore, I do the things that are required for me to look a certain way. And there's nothing wrong with that. And
No.
my tolerance for myself doesn't have to be the same as yours, doesn't have to be the same as anybody else. I'm wholeheartedly attempting to eliminate shoulds, haves, whatever from my life. Just because I don't have to do anything. I just do it because I want to or because I choose to. And that is much more empowering.
Yeah. You're making the decision for yourself, and it's not being made for you.
Yeah, you're an
And I feel
adult.
like-
You're not a kid, right? So
And it's so crazy because like when I do, let's say I have to run like the SWAT test. I just took the SWAT test and passed. But doing that, dude, I'm always like, man, like that anxious, right? Because did I prepare enough? Did I did I do what was required to do this? I just came off of knee rehab. Like I didn't have the same time other people. We create all these excuses for ourselves, right?
yeah.
And then you go there and you're running it and you're doing fairly well, but you're still like, man, what if I don't make time? What if maybe I started my clock wrong, or maybe like you start creating all these things. But then I did the Murph completely on my own.
Yeah.
It's for a good cause.
Yeah.
It's like for something bigger than you. Dude, I sucked air the whole time, but I'm like laughing.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there on the ground, like body's aching because I just did the test, and now I'm doing the Murph on top of that. It's like 40 degrees outside. It's raining, but I'm like laughing, and I'm sitting the gym had cameras going around, and I'm like posing for the camera, but everything hurts, and it's like, why can I approach this? Because I chose to do this.
Yeah.
This one, it's like, this is what I want. This is what I have to do.
Yeah.
It's chosen for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so funny how those
Why don't
two.
you do a Murph every day?
Do you enjoy me as a friend?
I do.
Do you want to see me dead? Because that's what comes from that.
See what I'm saying? So but the reality is because you're not willing to endure the suffering every single day.
Damn straight.
Yep. Yeah. But when there's a lot of meaning behind it, I'm willing to go once or twice throughout a year.
Yeah.
When something is actually
that's a good
meaningful.
point. But like it's the same thing, and in theory, you would get better at it.
Oh, for sure.
So the pain becomes less the more you do it.
Yeah.
But why don't we do that?
No, because you don't have enough of a meaning. It's not every day that it's like it's Memorial Day, right? That you would be doing a Murph, and you would be honoring the soldier that
That's a good point.
went through that hardship. So therefore, if you don't have that level of meaning, you just don't do it. So the goal is what? You just gotta find the things that really tick you, right?
Yeah. Find meaning in what you're doing, or put meaning to it.
Yeah.
Because we can do that too.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
Oh, this is a big one. Yeah, keep going.
You go to
I'm listening,
jiu-jitsu, right? And it's like, it's another class.
Yeah.
Or you go to jiu-jitsu and it's like, dude, this is going to yeah, I will never experience the pain I felt back. Like whatever that stemmed me to,
For sure.
I'll never feel that again.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, my body hurts. Yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm going to get beat up, but there's no way I'm ever going to feel this pain again. The action is the same.
Yeah.
You're showing up to class and you're participating in class, but you're attributing a deeper meaning to why you're
100%.
doing it.
Yeah.
You know, why do you go to work?
Yeah.
Oh man, I got to pay my bills, or I got to feed my family. I gotta,
There you go.
I want to give her the house.
Yeah.
we
Why do
didn't
people
have
make more
up.
money once they have kids?
Because you have to
Yeah, you
to
have to.
support your family.
Yeah. Why do people make more money once they have a wife?
Because she's expensive.
You know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah. And you care.
But that's a perfect
Yeah.
example, man. Like at the end of the day, we don't have to go to work.
Nope.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
You just don't get paid.
Yeah.
Then you don't have a house. You know, it's so funny when people hit me with man, I don't have the time to go to the gym, or
You haven't prioritized it.
you haven't prioritized it,
Yeah.
right? Because you make the time to go to work every day
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
because you quote unquote have to. But what happens if you don't go to work? How many people don't have jobs and live?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah, because that's what they tolerate.
You tolerate this level of comfortability.
Yeah.
So having to go to work is something you've put in that's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Something the gym, non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
Come
I'm
hell or
with you
high
there.
water.
Yeah.
That I'm at the gym.
Yeah. Going to the gym to me is like brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it. I
Yeah.
just go. Yeah.
You know?
I'm
And-
probably going to go to the gym right after this.
As you
Just
better.
because, like, why not? Yeah. I can.
Yeah, you just rolled all day, but like, why not
Yeah,
go to the
because
gym
I can.
somewhere?
Yeah, I should.
What gym are you about to go to?
I'm probably going to hit up, like, usually when I'm traveling, I just go, just lifting, I'm just going to go to, like, Platinum Fitness. It's the one that I have a membership on, and I also have a 24-hour
They're
fitness. They're everywhere. So anywhere I go, I know I can get a workout in, and it is possible to be extremely fit with very, 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 very little. But
Well, that's the people who knock Planet Fitness. I think it's more of an ego thing.
100%.
Like there's weights, and there's resistance. That's all you need to build. That's all you need.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like the one thing I can't get behind is you're preaching health and then you're offering donuts as people are walking out.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
pretty
we're
tricky,
kinda
right? It's a little
counterintuitive, but, like,
counterintuitive, yeah.
That's where we take accountability on going.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't eat the donuts.
Yeah, what's
Boom.
really funny is that I've been to Platinum Fitness a lot. I actually never seen it, which is really
Really?
funny. Yeah,
Oh,
maybe I
I've
go
seen
in off hours. So like because I go on like these like I go in the middle of the day because that's when often you have a little break or something.
You have to go in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, donuts in the morning.
Yeah,
Cops
yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
You train cops all the
Yeah,
time. You should
that's
know
true.
this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but like it's knocked, and I don't understand. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you're trying to Planet Fitness. Dude's double your size. How can you knock him?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I always love to see
Yeah.
like this
Don't argue
ripped
with
dude,
outcomes,
but he
right?
works out at Planet Fitness,
Yeah.
and someone's like, "You go to Planet Fitness?
Yeah.
Look at him! Like not that looks, but like look
Yeah.
at him.
Yeah.
Obviously, the side effects of his working out
sure.
is
Yeah.
drastic.
Yeah.
So no, that's cool. As we wind down, I'll let you get to the gym, but like, where can people follow you online? They're trying to like,
Yeah.
they like what you have to say, or maybe they want to get interested in GST.
Yeah,
where
for
can
sure.
people?
Yeah, a couple of things, right? One, I have my gym, is Gracie Jiu-Jitsu VB. Then I also have my marketing company. It's called Submission Strategies. And there, if you sign up with the gym, we have a crazy deal, right? Like, if you don't double what you pay us on year one, I'll work for free until you do. That's kind of the guarantee there. And hit me up on Instagram, and I'll add you to the software, and we get an onboarding meeting. Everything will be good. And then I have my personal, right, which is Bernardo SF93, and I think something that would be interesting, right, because we've been talking about like suffering, meaning, and all that, right? I can say that I'm not necessarily a very religious person, right? But I think that there's a lot of things that can be learned from text and potentially scripture and whatnot. And one of them that's very interesting is that, like, right, we're made in God's image. That's one of the claims that's made in the Bible, right? And I think that's something that's very interesting, right? It's very easy for people to fall in like a nihilistic kind of tendency of there is no meaning, right? If you go in a long enough time frame, gosh, you can go really far, right? Let's get extreme just because it's so easy to perceive that way. Do you know your great-grandfather's name?
No.
There you go. Therefore, you I'm gonna again be very harsh. You taking care of your daughter taking care of her daughter or son or whatever, and then they taking care of their daughter, they won't even know your name in 2 or 3 generations. So does it even matter that much? See how tricky that is?
They need to know. They need to know my name. I need to do things so they know my name.
You see how interesting that is, right? We like to think that we're gonna have this great legacy, but you can't even this is really funny. Queen Elizabeth is a good example, right? She ruled for close to like 50 years. She was a female ruler on a time where that was almost unheard of, right? She made more wealth than 99.99999% of people. And yet you haven't thought about her in the last 6 months until now. That's how much it matters. So it's very easy to fall in a trap that if you go on a long enough time scale, nothing will matter. And that's true. That is actually true. And at the same time, the very thing that makes us, this is my personal belief, that makes us in God's image is the fact that we can create meaning. Just like for a lot of people, God creates meaning in their life. We're able to then create meaning in our own life, in our own way. So therefore, if nothing really matters in a long enough time scale, the only things that actually matter are the things that you attribute value to. So those are the things that you should pursue. Therefore, you have the capability to do that. So if you choose to attribute value, that's when you're most powerful. That's when you're most godlike.
But here, okay, it's an interesting concept. Because then I would argue, what's it matter if my great-great-grandchild doesn't know my name?
It does not
But
matter.
my daughter does.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? So like, that's very interesting how you package that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, they may not know it, but
you know why?
what
Because
you do
you
here,
attribute value to that.
yeah, what you do here
Yeah.
will trickle down
100%.
to what happens there. And
For
you
sure.
may not get the credit for it,
Yep.
but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is what you're doing right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. I really like that idea. I like the idea that, there's two things, right? Like if you think of an all-powerful being or an all-knowing being, one of the things that you know that is all-powerful is that the moment that he thinks of something, the thing happens, right? So if I want to move this thing, it like, right, if I was God and I wanted to refill this, it would immediately get refilled, right? So if you want to be more godlike, you would reduce the amount of space between the time that you think about doing something and you do it.
Where the fuck was this in the conversation? And that's where make decisions.
100%.
Don't get pulled in two different directions. Decide.
Yeah.
And
So that's a skill, right? Being able to, the moment that you think about doing something, you immediately performing it versus you procrastinating versus you doing something else. And I find that that concept so much more powerful than like, oh, don't procrastinate. How much does that help you? Like, what is the actual thought around that, right? How much cooler it is to be like, you know what? All powerful, you can move and you can make it happen. Then why can I not be more powerful, right? So that's something that I kind of hold dear there. That's like, oh, like, there's nothing wrong with pursuing that, right? So finding ways to where you can then pursue action much sooner. You can then attribute meaning, so suffering happens less, right? Some people are like, oh, why are you so happy all the time? Or why you constantly in this way, right? It's because I chose to do the things that I attributed value to, and I only do those things. Therefore, it's so much easier. How much less suffering you're gonna experience. Again, I experience pain, but I don't experience suffering very often.
Back to pain versus. I should start titling these pain versus suffering. Because it's something we don't think about.
No. Yeah.
It's like when something hard is happening, we experience negative feelings.
Yeah.
What we do with this negative feeling is going to determine, are you going to experience pain, which leads to growth? Are you going to experience suffering, which leads to a whole nother world of things?
Yeah.
Pain versus suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so cool.
So I'll ask this. When people hear this episode after it's done, what's one message you want people to apply to their lives or take with them after the episode's aired?
I'll end with one more conceptual framework because I think this would be super helpful.
go.
It's
I
just
love it.
easy, yeah. And then
wheels
just because
and-
this might be one of the ones that allows you to then have action, meaning. And I learned this from a good coach, from a coach, and he said, learning is same condition, new behavior. So let's say if I show you a red paddle and I smack you in the head, and then I show you a red paddle and I smack you in the head, and I show you a red paddle and you duck, you have the same condition. I'm showing you a red paddle, but you now have a new behavior. If you never change your behavior based on the things that you learn, you actually learn nothing.
That can put us down a whole nother rabbit hole.
So,
Are you learning if you're never applying it?
thank you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You're actually not learning, you're acquiring knowledge, but you're not actually applying. Therefore, you learn nothing. So next time.
Damn it, dude. That's why I
Yeah.
hate talking to you, man. Like, my whole life changes every time.
Yeah.
I go for like a week of like bliss. And then I fall back to my red hand, boom, getting smacked.
That visual is so strong because I think about this. For example, when I'm just as fallible, I'm just as susceptible to things as any other person, right? And when I'm driving home from the gym, it's a 25-minute drive, and I go by Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, like things that, bro, they just water my mouth. I know how good that tastes, right? And I want it. And every time I go through them, it's the same condition, right?
You're
and
just
then
not pulling into the Chick-fil-A
and it
every day now.
was really funny is that when I go to like, oh man, I should get some Chick-fil-A, I immediately think about that red paddle. It's so funny. And I just keep driving.
I'm gonna do now. So we're gonna end it with this. Whenever you're being hard on yourself, hold yourself as a baby.
Yes.
And try to say mean things to it. I dare you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then whenever you're doing something that you probably think you shouldn't be doing, picture the red paddle and getting smacked across the face.
Oh,
Duck.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how we're gonna end it, dude. And you know what's crazy? Those two metaphors sum up a lot of what we talked about.
For sure.
It just dumbs it down to a very digestible concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, brother, I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy life to step into the studio. You know, all I wanted was for you to be here so I can see you in the flesh again. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I'll have you know he ditched me in Vegas, but we won't talk about that because he promised to go this year. So we want to say
We'll go. We'll be there. We'll be there.
But no, man, it's always a pleasure to talk to you and to have
bro.
that exchange in person.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very important because it's easier to conceptualize things and
for sure
read emotion. So this is the one with Bernardo.
Boom.
Appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
And we're out.
All right.
Later.
Boom.